if you need one. They're available at the back of the room there. Okay, good morning. Thank you all for being here for the session. Today we're going to talk about integrated cities and the integration of artificial intelligence and location intelligence to support city and municipal organizations around the world. My name is Richard Budden. I'm with Esri. I'm based in our office in Dubai in the UAE, and I lead our cities and local government business for Esri across our international region, so outside of the United States. Now, as with all of these sessions, we really value your feedback at the end, so if you have the application on your phone, if you don't, go ahead and get it from the App Store, but please go onto the app at the end and give us some feedback. That really helps us to make these sessions more valuable for you in the future and helps us to learn from the information that you share. So cities today around the world are a major user of Esri GIS technology. And this, like I said, is something that I'm involved in the work that I do for Esri. Cities are getting bigger. They're becoming more populated. The urban population of the world is rising. And the UN estimates that by 2050, 68% of the world's population will be situated in urbanized areas. So this really is you can consider one of the mega trends of humanity today, something that's driving transformation on a global scale across all of our cities and continents. Cities are also economic powerhouses and actually responsible for 80% of the world's GDP. So they're not something that we can ignore. But certainly it's true that cities are also facing a number of challenges. The range of factors that are affecting cities today is getting larger. They're being increasingly affected by things like the growing population, resource shortages, climate change, and other challenges. So for any city leader today, or anybody working within government, it's important to be able to act in a way that's responsible and take action to support the growth and development of the city in a sustainable way. But cities are busy. And when you look at what's going on here in Riyadh, or you look in Abu Dhabi, or you look in Doha, or any of the cities in this region, cities have a lot of areas of responsibility. There's a lot of areas in which they're responsible for governing and looking after, from things like community development and the provision of housing, through to governance and the development of public policy, right through to the delivery of infrastructure and services to support the communities and the people that live within those cities. So this slide just gives a snapshot of some of the areas of responsibility that cities are required to meet demand in. And at the same time, cities have a range of different needs and challenges, as I've mentioned, that they need to work through. There are business needs that cities need to consider, things like how they govern in an effective way, how they embrace innovation within the work that they do, how they increasingly deliver services in a digital way. There are technical needs that cities and municipalities are responsible for, things like leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning and new ways of working, how to enhance and leverage partnerships with non-profit organizations, how to provide modern applications for government. And then the challenges, and I've mentioned a few already, but things like the need for green space, taking care of the environment, climate change, economic and social equity, meeting increasing demand with limited resources. And if you're involved working with cities, hopefully some of these challenges are resonating with you. Now, it's also true that cities and local governments are working with outdated or technology that isn't actually up to date. Modernizing technology for cities and municipalities can also be a challenge for a variety of reasons. The capacity for change within that organization can be difficult. The human resources that are available or the financial resources that are available. And at the same time, there are barriers to implementing new and modern technologies and different ways of working. It's also true that cities are facing, or they're being overwhelmed, in fact, by the significant amount of data that's available to them. Data from sensors, feedback they're getting from their citizens, information coming from other business systems, and many city organizations are actually struggling to deal with all of this. Now, when we look at the sort of journey of technology adoption from cities and municipalities over the years, this really kind of took flight in the 1990s with this kind of e-government movement. This is where government departments started leveraging websites. They started sharing information with their communities about work that was going on, starting to provide some very early citizen services in an electronic and digital format. Then came the smart cities movement, which really gained traction in the 2000s. This became a significant trend, and honestly, this is still continuing today. This was all around leveraging technology to drive better efficiencies and innovations. This is when we started to see the integration of geospatial technology into the work that cities do. And we also saw the rise of the Internet of Things with the adoption of these sensors and smart systems and being able to pull that information into common platforms for cities to use. But today, the overarching theme and sort of trend that we're seeing today is how can cities leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning in more positive ways and sort of digitally transform us and provide more citizen-centric services. Things like dynamic digital twins, where you're integrating data from multiple sources. Mobile government, where agencies are providing applications for use that support the work that governments are doing. And this is really where we are today, and this is really what I'm going to talk about this morning. Another key point I'd like to make is that in the modern world, challenges that cities face or governments face are no longer isolated to single organizations. They span multiple agencies of government, multiple departments of government, which means that collaboration and working together effectively using common authoritative data is more important than ever. So this idea of collaboration and working in concert with each other is a hugely important topic, and of course is something that GIS can support us with. So this really is where the concept of location intelligence and artificial intelligence comes in. And I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about how cities can leverage these capabilities. We can start to envision something we might call a city integration system. So location intelligence plus artificial intelligence equals this city integration system that provides the ability to bring data from multiple sources together, to collaborate more effectively, and to bring a range of stakeholders, as this diagram describes, into the picture so that everybody can be working from a common base. So we have city leadership, the city agencies, people that work within those government departments, IT and e-government, academia, non-governmental organizations, non-profit organizations, the private sector, and indeed the public, all being able to access and leverage and work in collaboration together from a city perspective. And we can use GIS as the fundamental framework within which to put this. And those things can have a positive benefit across multiple areas of government, whether it's things like citywide monitoring, looking at things like urban planning and zoning, transportation management, public safety and policing, natural resource management, or indeed engaging with citizens and residents. So what I'd like to do now is just step through a few examples of this and show you how this is actually being used in action today. So let's start with the concept of the digital twin. So who in the room has heard of digital twin as a concept? A quick show of hands. Yeah, so this is, I would say in the last few years, this has become one of the most prevalent city-related trends that we've observed. Esri's take on this is that we are leveraging geospatial technology to provide a living digital twin. And that means it's not a static piece of information, like it's actually a real-time, reality-based, IoT-integrated system that enables city leaders to get a full picture of what's going on, to run scenarios, and help them to plan for the future. And this example from Boston in the United States that you're seeing here on the right shows exactly that, where you have a reality-captured 3D model of the city. We've integrated BIM data, the utilities information. We've overlaid designs and zones and plans for the future. And all of this is enabling all the organizations of government in that city to get a picture of what's going on today and help them to plan for tomorrow. So cities are starting to adopt these technologies and these techniques. And they help with the data capture side of it. They help with the reality and the real-time integration part, the analysis and prediction for the future, and then the sharing and collaboration. And really, this is kind of an underpinning system that can support organizations working in municipalities of all types. Now, as I mentioned, the ability to bring real-time information into these systems is really enabling more dynamic data decision-making and integration of this information. So the Internet of Things, as I've mentioned, provides us with this rich source of data, information about traffic, about weather, about population movements, about the movement of goods and vehicles around the city. And all of this information from devices and from sensors can now be streamed in to a system like this in real time. This example shows a real-time 3D-enabled dashboard in the city of Hong Kong, where they're looking at operations for a rail network. And again, streaming information in real time, looking at when trains are arriving and departing from the station, and so on. And increasingly, cities are moving and adopting these digital urban planning techniques today. This is really changing the way that our cities are planned and zoned, and how you build support and collaboration around stakeholders that are involved in the design process. We now have the ability to build in the zoning and building design codes into these systems so that when designers and planners are working through different ideas and different models for the future, the system will actually automatically ensure that there's compliance to the local standard within that country. So these examples here are showing sort of massing at a large scale across this city here in Uppsala. This city actually had an issue with their housing provision, and were charged with doubling the housing stock within Uppsala in Sweden over a very short period of time. And they used this system to do that in a quick and efficient and collaborative way. This also, like I said, enables you to share these designs with stakeholders. So no longer do you have to build a physical 3D model of a future design and have that in a room somewhere in the city hall and everyone comes to look at it and provide feedback. But now you can share this information quickly and easily over the web, even with the public, frankly, and get their feedback, get their buy-in for future designs. Now, transportation, if you live in a city, you probably experience traffic congestion. I know that I do on a regular basis. Ever-expanding road systems are really not the answer, and cities today are realizing this. So what they're trying to do is get better value from the assets that they have in place already. So leveraging the infrastructure they've invested in today and using those in a more efficient and more effective way. So that starts really with understanding how those systems are being used, whether it's rail, whether it's light transit, whether it's roads, understanding the patterns of movement, understanding when things are busy and when things are not busy, looking at whether there are opportunities to adjust lanes on the road or traffic light phasing or other systems to ensure that the assets are being used to their maximum benefit. So we have dashboards from the United States here that are showing some examples of how that's done in 2D. This 3D incident dashboard, which was a concept that we built for the government of Abu Dhabi, actually brings the 3D buildings of the city, it brings the road network, and it also shows us the incidents and accidents that are happening in real time from the city's sensor network, like I've mentioned before. Then the example on the left is actually using machine learning to study video feeds from a traffic intersection to understand what types of vehicles are passing through that intersection at what times of the day. So when do trucks pass through more often? When are there cars? When are there other types of vehicles? And that helps them to get an understanding of how the asset is being used. Now, ensuring sustainability is a topic that's the top of the list for any city leader or any city mayor today. And this is about how cities can meet the needs of today without compromising the ability to do that in the future. So whether that's things like renewable energy schemes and looking how to convert existing infrastructure for energy into renewable schemes, or looking at this example from Dubai here, where the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority actually put together a solar calculator for the city. And as a resident, you could go ahead and implement solar panels on your roof, and you could get an understanding of the money savings off your energy bill that you would be receiving in return. Or whether it's things like this example at the top, where the city of Prague and the Czech Republic, who are facing challenges with urban heat island effects, actually used GIS to understand where those issues were happening and how to plan green infrastructure like parks, trees, shaded areas for the city to try and mitigate the impacts of the hot summers that they've been receiving recently. So sustainability is a key topic for any city leader, as is the concept of resiliency. So resiliency talks about the ability for a city to absorb the impact from unplanned events and incidents and how they recover and adapt for the future from those things. So this example on the left is showing how the devastating fires that happened in Los Angeles a year ago this month, how GIS was used to both monitor transport movements over that area, tankers dropping water, other aircraft doing mapping, other people doing surveys, and looked at the movement and monitoring of that in real time. Elsewhere, we see GIS being used to help first responders identify the areas to go to first in an earthquake event in Turkey. So when that happens, people go out with mobile devices, they capture information about damaged buildings, they look at where crews need to go in first, and first responders can have the most impact. Then the flooding that happened in this region 2 years ago, which caused devastating impact to many cities around the Middle East. Now, municipal organizations are waking up to the fact that climate change is happening, and we need to plan better for these kind of events in the future. So tools that help us to simulate potential flooding events and how to mitigate, how to put drainage into place, how to inform the community ahead of time so that people don't face such a significant impact in the future. All of these things are, again, powered by these technologies that I've talked about. Public safety is hugely important for any city, of course. Supporting the emergency management life cycle of policing, of fire, of emergency services. Looking at things like mapping crime trends over periods of time. Looking at hotspots of activity so that you can police better, you can send crews to the right places at the right times. Looking at monitoring events and incidents and accidents on a country scale, on a regional scale, and on a global scale, like this watch center example on the left, that's pulling information from the news, from social media feeds, helping a city leader to actually get an understanding of what's going on and to respond in an effective and efficient way. So again, GIS location is an underpinning for all of these activities for a city. Then there are a range of other sort of services for citizens and capabilities that cities need to implement, whether it's things like looking at green space or the planting of trees or how to share public information to the community and the citizens. There are a range of tools and applications that can support cities, and actually Esri has a range of solutions that help cities get these up and running really quickly and get you to deploy these types of templates and things so that you can start to be more reactive as a city from the start. And then lastly, this concept of community engagement has become really a significant trend, I would say, over the last 10 to 15 years, where it's kind of now expected that as somebody living in a city, that you receive more regular feedback from your government, you're understanding where the money that your tax dollars are going towards actually gets spent, you're understanding where problems are and how those are being addressed by the city and the agencies of government. So again, I talked about standing up websites and sharing that information, but increasingly those things are now interactive. So we have these sort of web-based community engagement applications that show things like street closures and where there's going to be public works going on. Some cities are sharing open data with their residents about things that are happening across the city. And now there's sort of AI-enabled front ends to that as well. So this city in the United States on the left here has actually implemented a generative AI front end to their community engagement website. So you can now chat to the city in real time and get information back that's pulled directly out of the GIS and is provided in a map-based form. So all of these systems, as I've mentioned, are supported, they're powered, they're underpinned by the concepts of GIS and location intelligence. And you can see we've got examples from Singapore, from Sweden, from Dubai, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, the United States, and many others as well. So how are these implemented? You know, what is the kind of high-level conceptual architecture for this? Well, firstly, you need the geospatial infrastructure for the government. That needs to be put in place to start. And that can then integrate and pull information in from different government agencies. So you have the GIS data, IoT type information, building information data, and then other business system information already that typically these agencies of government already have in place. And these are coming from those different departments: land, transport, planning, policing, public safety, health, education. But you need the infrastructure for them to be able to share this in an effective way. And you also need an agency that kind of takes the lead and orchestrates and arranges this. So at the very center here, this could either be, you know, the municipality itself, the mayor's department, it could be the IT or e-government agency, the smart cities organization. It really varies from city to city. But somebody should take the lead and help to implement this infrastructure and also put the governance in place, the policies, the standards, the workflows, the processes to enable this to happen and work effectively. Once you have this geospatial infrastructure for the city in place, then you can build these solutions and these configurations on top of that to support the different work that happens at a citywide scale. So this is kind of breaking out from the individual silos of work that these different organizations are doing as their day-to-day mission and looking at things in a holistic way across the entire city. And when you do it this way, really we see a range of positive outcomes. You know, better governance, optimized decision-making based on data, sustainability, resiliency, like I talked about, readying the economy for investment, so by sharing open data, nurturing startups and other businesses to help try to grow that investment. An ecosystem for innovation, so again, sharing data in a way that can be brought into other applications and can start to stimulate other economic opportunities. And ultimately, like all of these things, the end game should really be improving the quality of life for those people that live, work, and play within those locations. So this is going on in many cities around the world today, and it's a constant evolution. It's not something that's just done and finished. It's continually changing. And when we look across the MENA region here, we see some incredible opportunities, some incredible work that's already been done by some of the organizations here today. So here in Saudi Arabia, the work of the National Housing Company is incredible, the work that they're doing with Baladi and putting systems in place to support the positive housing developments for the country, but also the innovation and the kind of economic development opportunities that come out of that. When we look at the work in Abu Dhabi, they've had a spatial data infrastructure that's been in place for more than 10 years now that's really bringing those agencies of government together, sharing information in a holistic way, like I spoke about. Again, the work in Dubai, like you heard yesterday from Matha on stage, leveraging AI to really build this citywide system. In Qatar, there's some incredible work going on with the Center of GIS who have mapped their entire country and have got real-time data going about all kinds of different information. And then you can see the other examples from Oman, from Egypt, and Lebanon, and others. When we look a little bit more broadly, we see other great examples around the world as well. And the city of Singapore, who actually presented this work at Esri's user conference 2 years ago in San Diego. They've got organizations, the Urban Redevelopment Authority and the National Parks Board. They're really bringing information together about the greening of the city and enabling it to be a sustainable city-state into the future. They're well aware of the issues of climate change in this city, so they're doing everything they can to implement green measures to keep the city cool, to keep it sustainable and keep it resilient for the future. They call it a city in nature, in fact. And one of the interesting things that they've done here is they have hundreds of thousands of trees across the entire city, and they've got each one of those mapped to a very high level of accuracy in a database that's stored in GIS. Not just the location, but actually the details of the canopy, the type of species, the maintenance work that's required is done off the back of this GIS system. They're streamlining workflows for inspections of these trees as well. And all of this is stored in this system with photographs and with other asset data, enabling this kind of city in nature to take place, all powered, again, by geospatial technology. Another really good example from Europe is the city of Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania. They're really one of the leaders, that I've seen at least, in the application of GeoAI techniques, together with reality capture. They have a fleet of drones that are stored in boxes on the roof of government buildings around the city. And on an occasional basis, these drones will take off automatically, like this video shows. They'll go and fly across parts of the city, and they're doing a number of things. Firstly, they're capturing imagery data, like you can see here. They're also doing real-time monitoring of things like traffic situations, looking for issues like overflowing trash bins, looking for illegal parking, looking for illegal dumping of rubbish. And all of this is done in real time, and this information is streamed dynamically back from these drones into the city operations center so that the city leaders can actually get a real-time view of what's happening. They then dispatch field crews, they send people out to go and resolve the issues. They can autonomously address traffic light phasing to address the traffic congestion issues that are happening. All of this is sort of an autonomous system. There's people involved as well, for sure, but all of this runs somewhat automatically. Again, all underpinned by this geospatial capabilities. And I think we're going to see more examples of cities that are leveraging these kind of integrated systems, aerial data capture, automated monitoring, real-time data integration, plus the foundation of the asset data to really try and drive forward city monitoring in a new way. Now, I mentioned Prague in Czech Republic a few moments ago. And again, they've done some incredible work on their sustainability program, like I mentioned, looking at greening the city. But they've also built a 3D digital twin for their asset data, over which they've laid their existing GIS information. And this is really helping them to get a real-time view of what's going on across their city. This information is also shared with the public. So this application you can see here is actually available on their website. So you can go ahead and look and find out what's going on in your city, in your neighborhood, and so on. They're using the system to understand the climate challenges, like I said, helping to implement nature-based measures to try and keep their city cool in kind of a new, innovative way. Now, a couple of other sort of larger scale examples. We talked about digital twins earlier on. This is a digital twin for the city of Stuttgart in Germany. And I think it really shows that the maps that we're creating today in 2026 are really becoming closer and closer to the actual reality of what's going on the ground. I mean, this looks like you're in an aircraft flying over the city. These maps are becoming more realistic, but they're also able to sort of model and demonstrate the relationships that are going on across the city as well. So we have this 3D mesh. As you can see, this is the outcome of the reality capture technology, but you can also overlay asset data. Your vector-based information can go in there as well. So you can actually go in there and interrogate, to analyze, and actually run different processes on this information as well. Now, building information modeling as an engineering process and technology, this information is now also able to be brought into these systems thanks to the relationship that Esri has with Autodesk as an engineering data and technology provider. So here we can see a 3D BIM model of this proposed station development. And this is one of the largest railway stations in Europe. This information has actually been brought directly into the GIS system. Now, this is sort of hardcore engineering data that typically wouldn't be easily accessible by a non-engineering expert. But actually, in this system, you can start to leverage that and actually interact with it much more easily. They're also doing environmental simulation, looking at flooding analysis, and then applying GeoAI techniques to create data from data as well. So here they've mapped the trees automatically using GeoAI. And again, they're creating a vector-based data set from this raster imagery, and then they use that for asset maintenance and so on going forward. Now, also the way that we access this information and the way that cities can interact and experience these kind of informations are changing also. So again, this is Stuttgart, but this time it's in the view of a virtual reality experience. So we're actually able to take that 3D GIS data, put it into VR, and when you put these new headsets on, like the Apple Vision Pro or others, you can actually experience this information in an entirely new way. So as a leader in the planning department or the asset department or utilities organization, you can really get a new immersive view, not only of the opportunities, but also of the challenges that your city is facing using this data, and really experience things in the way that the public would, so that you can address problems before they become reality. Now, what used to be kind of static maps of things like utility networks, like we can see on the left, these are now, we can actually stream these in dynamically in 3D, not just for those that are working in the office and sort of doing planning for the future and so on, but also for those that are charged with doing asset inspections or maintenance work in the field. You know, this information is available through a web browser or through a mobile app on a tablet device. So rather than dealing with this kind of mess of utilities lines like you can see on the left, it's easy for that inspector or the maintenance crew to get a real-time understanding of what's going on under the ground, because you can bring in the building data, the imagery, and the other asset data as well. Now, from a digital twin perspective, this is kind of a simulation twin of the city of Oslo in Norway. And this is looking at how wind interacts with the 3D buildings, or the actual buildings, rather, of the city. Looking at where maybe we need to adjust things because there's wind flows that are causing corridor issues for pedestrians. We can also bring in the zoning information. We can look at shadow analysis across the city. And all of this is really helping the people that live and work in this city to do so in a more comfortable way. And again, the digital twin here is providing the framework upon which these visualizations and analytical processes can take place. And when we talk about digital twin, one of the probably premier examples that we have is this one from the city of Zurich in Switzerland. This really brings all of it together, in my view. So they've actually integrated dozens of different data layers into one place. So they're actually integrating data from the buildings, the trees, the reality, environmental data, EV information from charging stations. All of this has been brought together into a single digital twin system. And this is extending from the city scale right down into interior spaces as well. So they actually have indoor mapping for some of their key buildings. This is the university, ETH University in Zurich. They've mapped their building in interior and actually brought that information into here as well. They've also integrated live sensor information from their IoT network, so they can actually get a real-time view of what's going on. They've also brought in the building information modeling data and laser scan information from the train station, which you can see here. This is the point cloud that came out of the laser scanning work. So this is a really powerful tool for sort of interior and exterior urban planning. Like I mentioned, they're using reality and integrated IoT data. So here we've got motion sensors, we've got fire sensors that are sort of predicting and modeling scenarios for accidents in this building, looking at how to respond and how to get out of the building in a positive way, looking at routing across the city, again, not just exterior, but also doing that through the building as well. And then using that to help plan and design the next Zurich for the future. So looking at opportunities for redevelopment, looking at investment opportunities, and then not just doing that in a technical way, but also bringing it into the game engine environment like this, so that that information can be shared with the public to help them to get a view and provide feedback about future planning. So those are just a few examples of some of the work that we're doing with cities around the world. One thing I wanted to mention for those GIS professionals in the room is that none of that happens without the hard work and dedication of GIS people. So technology is important, but you need the dedication, you need people that understand the challenges, urban planners, data analysts, city leaders, but you also need those GIS professionals to help to build these systems, integrate this data in this way. And this isn't just a technology thing, right? There's much more to it than just implementing technology. Location intelligence and artificial intelligence provides us with an incredible opportunity to do these things in a new and innovative way. But it also requires strong leadership, a vision from the city that's top down and bottom up, so that everyone is aligned and working in the same way. It requires that strategic thinking so that we can address challenges and work through them in a positive way. It requires the right people, skills, capacity, resources within these organizations. And it requires us to work in the mindset of sharing and collaboration. So breaking out of these kind of siloed mindsets and organizations that are just working on their own and actually start to work and collaborate more effectively with other users. So with that, I'd like to introduce my friend Ahmed Thalat here. He's a senior urban planner at Shahir Development Authority. Yesterday, we heard from them on stage, and they presented some of their work that they're doing here in the kingdom. But Ahmed's going to go a little bit deeper today and share a few more insights into some of the work that's going on in that region. So I'll hand it over.
Thank you, Richard. احنا النهارده هنوضح منصة سرد كمثال. صباح الخير. احنا النهارده انا اولا بشكر زميلي ريتشارد. ما في الصوت شغال. احنا النهارده هنوضح منصة سرد كمثال عملي على الذكاء الجيومكاني اللي هو استعرضه لينا. احمد طلعت من هيئة تطوير المنطقة الشرقية. الاول هنبدا ب احنا النهارده هنعرفكم على المنصة الموحدة منصة سرد. سرد هي كلمة اختصارا لشرقيا ريجونال داتا هاب بلاتفورم، اللي هو منصة المعلومات الحضرية للمنطقة الشرقية. الذكاء الجيومكاني عندنا هو الأساس، لأن احنا بنعتبر أن سرد هي العقل المفكر الجيومكاني للعمليات التطوير أو التنمية اللي مسؤولين عنها في المنطقة الشرقية بالكامل. زي ما احنا شايفين هي سرد بتتكون من شقين رئيسيين، هي منصة موحدة تشمل قاعدة بيانات موحدة وتشمل منصة حضرية موحدة. سرد احنا اشتغلنا عليها في خلال بناء مؤسسي لخطة كاملة على مدار 10 سنوات كاملين بمجموعة إصدارات مختلفة. احنا حاليا في بصدد الإصدار الثاني، إطلاق الإصدار الثاني اللي هيكون نقلة أكثر في من خلال تفعيل الذكاء الجيومكاني من خلال مجموعة منتجات وخدمات حضرية بتقدمها المنصة. هدف المنصة في الأساس هو إن احنا نخدم أعمال الهيئة، نساعد في تطوير وتنمية منطقتنا اللي هي المنطقة الشرقية في المملكة العربية السعودية. فالهدف الأصلي في الموضوع إن احنا إزاي نسهل أعمال الهيئة، إزاي إن احنا نطور المنطقة من خلال استخدام التقنيات الحديثة والتطور اللي موجود حاليا في التقنيات والذكاء الجيومكاني. احنا عندنا خطة كانت بدأت من الإصدار التأسيسي، كان لسه لم تبدأ المنصة الموحدة. بعدين الإصدار الأول اللي احنا موجودين عليه حاليا اللي هو الإصدار الخاص لبداية المنصة الموحدة. بعدين في خلال أيام بسيطة هنطلق الإصدار الثاني واللي احنا هنستعرض لكم منه النهاردة مجموعة من المنتجات. وإن شاء الله عندنا خطة للإصدار الثالث، وعندنا خطة يعني بناء مؤسسي طويل المدى، وعندنا خطة إن احنا نمشي عليها. زي ما احنا وضحنا في الأول إن سرد جزئين رئيسيين، قاعدة بيانات جيومكانية موحدة ومنصة موحدة. إيه هو اللي بيميز سرد في قاعدة البيانات الجيومكانية الموحدة؟ ان احنا بنقدر نتعامل مع كافه انواع البيانات. احنا مش بس بنعتمد على الجي اي اس داتا، لا احنا بنقدر نستقبل من كل البيانات، بيانات احصائيه، بنقدر نستخدم البيانات من خلال الوثائق، نقدر نضمها للمنصه لقاعده البيانات الموحده. كل انواع البيانات اللي موجوده قصاد حضراتكم احنا بنقدر نتعامل معاها في المنصه، وبنقدر نتعامل معاها في قاعده البيانات. كل الانفورميشن موديلز، سواء بيم، سواء ليم، سواء البلانز اند الاربان كودز، كل ده البيانات دي كل اللي بتغطي اعمال الهيئه بالكامل، مش بس الجي اي اس، موجوده عندنا في قاعده البيانات الموحده. وده اللي بيدينا الميزه النسبيه ان احنا بنقدر نتعامل مع كل ادارات الهيئه بايا كانت نوع البيانات اللي هي بيتعاملوا من خلالها، بنقدر نضمها لقاعده البيانات الموحده عشان نقدر نعمل منها قيمه مضافه اللي هي المنتجات والخدمات اللي احنا هنستعرضها لحضراتكم. ده اللي بيميز الشق الاول من سرد اللي هو قاعده البيانات الموحده. طيب، على مستوى قاعده البيانات عرفنا قاعده البيانات هي الاساس بتاعنا، ولكن احنا دلوقتي هنوريكم النسيج الرقمي اللي عندنا في سرد. احنا بنبدا بقاعده بيانات بتشمل كل انواع البيانات زي ما شرحنا. بعدها بنقدر نعمل انتجريشنز مع كل السيستم. سرد بيزد اون تكنولوجي ازري، ولكن هي سرد مش مقتصره على، هي مبنيه على تكنولوجي ازري، ولكن تقدر تتعامل مع كل التقنيات. كل التقنيات بمعنى ان احنا بنقدر نتعامل مع تقنيات اوتوديسك، بنقدر نتعامل مع المايكروسوفت، بنقدر نتعامل مع الادوب، بنقدر نتعامل ونستقبل ونتعامل مع كل التقنيات دي. نقدر نتعامل مع كل السيستمز اللي داخل المملكه. احنا داخل النسيج الرقمي للمملكه، احنا داخل النسيج الرقمي فيه سيستمز مختلفه. السيستمز المختلفه دي زي سوق البيانات اللي مسؤوله عنه سدايا، زي المنصه الجيومكانيه اللي مسؤوله عنها الجيوسا. فاحنا بنقدر نتعامل معاهم. الانتجريشن ده بيكون من خلال ان احنا يا اما بنمدهم ببيانات في حال الاحتياج، او ان احنا بنستقبل منهم بيانات. ده الليفل الثاني اللي هو ليفل انتجريشنز. بعد ما بقى ما عندنا قاعده بيانات موحده وعملنا انتجريشن، حصلنا منها على بيانات او صدرنا بيانات، بيجي الليفل الثالث اللي هو الابلكيشنز بتاعت ازري اللي هي الكوميرشال اوف ذا شيلف. احنا بنقدر من خلال الكوميرشال اوف ذا شيلف دي ان احنا نتعامل مع الابلكيشنز بتاعت ازري بشكل فردي، عشان نقدر من خلالها نوصل للليفل الرابع اللي هو المنتجات. فكره المنتجات عندنا ان احنا كل منتج بيبقى بيخدم اداره معينه داخل الهيئه، زي تخطيط الاراضي، زي المرصد الحضري. كل دي ادارات موجوده في الهيئه، ليها كل اداره لها مجموعه من المتطلبات، مجموعه من البيزنس ريكويرمنت. كل اداره مختلفه في البيزنس ريكويرمنت بتاعتها، في الداتا بتاعتها. احنا في سرد بنقدر نوفر لهم حل من خلال الذكاء الجيومكاني ان احنا نخدم متطلبات اعمالهم من خلال ان احنا نطبق مجموعه من الابلكيشنز الخاصه من ازري. كل منتج خاص في، يا اما هنستخدم داشبورد، يا اما اكسبيرينس بيلدر، يا اما سيرفي 1 2 3، يا اما اي شيء من التكنولوجيز المختلفه بتاعت ازري، لحد ما نوصل ان احنا دلوقتي حاليا عندنا 20 منتج. ال 20 منتج دول بيمثلوا 20 اداره داخل الهيئه. زي ما هو موضح قصاد حضراتكم، هتلاقوا الانفراستراكشر موجود، هتلاقوا المشروعات الكبرى، هتلاقوا متابعه المشروعات الكبرى، هتلاقوا اللاند بلاننج تخطيط الاراضي، هتلاقوا الجيو سبيشال انفورميشنز. كل اداره مسؤول عنها منتج بيوفر لها كل الحلول التقنيه اللي تخصها، لحد ما نوصل ان احنا المستفيدين اليوزرز اللي في الاخر احنا بنعمل وايد رينج من المستفيدين، بنغطي اعداد كبيره من المستفيدين بشرائح مختلفه، بدايه من الجانب الحكومي، صناع القرار، لحد المستخدم الفرد العادي. فدي احنا بنقول ان هي الديجيتال فابريك، النسيج الرقمي لسرد. اول منتج هنستعرض النهارده معاكم ان شاء الله منتجين اتنين. اول منتج هيكون منتج المشروعات الكبرى. ازاي استخدمنا الذكاء الجيومكاني في ان احنا نخدم اداره المشروعات الكبرى اللي موجوده عندنا في الهيئه في متابعه اعمال وانشاءات حاجه معروفه جدا اللي هو استاد ارامكو، اللي هو الاستاد اللي ان شاء الله هتستضيف من خلاله المملكه كاس العالم 2034. فده احنا الاداره كان ليها مجموعه من المتطلبات. عملنا ده ان احنا يعني نوفر لهم الاستاد من خلال سيناريو محاكاه 3 دي، بحيث ان هو يقدر يتابع الانشاءات، يقدر يراجع التصميم بشكل بصري. البيانات بصريا بتبقى اسهل كتير في المتابعه، واسهل كتير في ان انت تراجعها. وفرنا لهم الحل التقني دوت من خلال تقنيات ازري، بحيث ان هم الاداره يبقى متابعتها بالكامل للتنفيذ والتصميم من خلال منصه سرد. ده مثال اول للمنتج. احنا بنوفرنا في المثال ان هو يقدر يحاكي المنتج الاستاد الحقيقي، بحيث ان هو يشوف المشجعين ازاي هيتحركوا داخل الاستاد، يقدر يتلافى اي اخطاء ممكن تحصل في التصميم او التنفيذ من قبل ما الاستاد يتم تنفيذه، بحيث ان احنا نسهل عمليات المتابعه، وبنسهل عمليات الرقابه، وبنسهل عمليات التصميم من خلال الاتاحه البصريه. المنتج نفسه موجه للاداره دي، ولكن بتستفيد منه الهيئه بالكامل. ده يسهل الاعمال بتاعه الاداره، ينظم الاعمال، يحسن من جوده المخرجات بتاعتهم من خلال المنصه الموحده عندنا اللي هي منصه سرد. ده الجزء الاول كده. المنتج نفسه بيوفر لهم ادوات تحليليه، زي ان هو يقدر يسلايس تول، يقدر يستخدم اداه القطع ان هو يشوف اي شيء من الداخل، يوضح له ازاي انت الصاله من الداخل شكلها عامل ازاي، وانت شكلها من الخارج عامل ازاي، بطريقه واضحه تقدر تسهل لهم اعمالهم. ده المنتج الاول. بعدين هننتقل للمنتج الثاني اللي هو المنتج البنيه التحتيه. منتج البنيه التحتيه احنا عندنا في المنصه بنوفره من خلال كذا عنصر. عندنا مستكشف 2 دي عادي جدا، ولكن برضو استخدمنا التقنيات ان احنا نقدم مستكشف 3 دي يقدر يشوف. ده شارع رئيسي عندنا في الخبر، يقدر يشوف المواسير، يقدر يشوف المعلومات الكامله بتاعتها داخل المنصه، يقدر يشوف مواسير الصرف الصحي باللون البني، مواسير المياه باللون الازرق، يقدر يطلع على كافه المعلومات وهو في مرحله الديزاين، يقدر يشوف التعارضات في الشبكه، يقدر يشوف كل المعلومات دي. الاداره تقدر تقوم بعملها من خلال شيء سهل، من خلال شيء متاح، من خلال بيانات بتتحدث باستمرار، مش ما فيهاش اي تاخير في المتابعه. فده يوفر لهم العمل لحد ما يوصل لاشارات المرور قواعدها من تحت الارض، ويقدر يتابع كل الشارع بكل البنيه التحتيه بتاعته المختلفه في مكان واحد، لحد ما يوصل ان هو يشوف اشاره المرور فوق الارض بالمعلومات الكامله بتاعتها. ده اللي بتوفره سرد من خلال تقنياتها، ده اللي بتوفره سرد من خلال الحلول التقنيه المبتكره، من خلال الذكاء الجيومكاني اللي هي بتوفره لكل ادارات الهيئه. احنا عندنا 20 منتج بيمثل 20 اداره مختلفه. المهندس خالد الغامدي عرض امبارح امس 5 منتجات منهم، ودول منتجين تانيين 7 منتجات، وال20 منتج بالكامل موجودين. ال20 منتج بيوفروا حلول تقنيه، بيوفروا سهوله في الاعمال. طيب بعد ما استعرضنا المنتجين طبعا بشكل يعني اكثر تفصيل من امس، ولكن برضو اللي يحتاج احنا موجودين في اي وقت ان احنا نقدر نستعرض المنتجات بشكل اكتر حفاظا على الوقت بس بتاع السيشن. طيب سرد ايه القيمه المضافه اللي قدمتها للهيئه؟ ايه القيمه المضافه للهيئه وايه القيمه المضافه لاعمال الهيئه؟ احنا في الاول الحمد لله في سنه 2025 حصلنا على 4 جوائز، منهم في مؤتمر إزري امريكا جايزه لخريطه المنتجات، خريطه النطاقات الاشرافيه. حصلنا على في الماب جاليري على المركز الاول في فئه الخرائط المرجعيه، وده احد منتجات منصه سرد. وحصلنا على جايزه من جايزه الحوكمه الجيومكانيه من جيوسا. مكننا شراكات، الهيئه بتتعامل دايما مع استشاريين سواء عالميين او محليين. مكننا 5 شركات ان هم يوصلوا البيانات الخاصه بكل البيانات الخاصه بالمنطقه الشرقيه، انفراستراكشر، طرق، تخطيط اراضي، مرصد حضري، مؤشرات، مشروعات تنمويه، كل ده كان متاح من سرد. فسهلنا اعمال 5 شراكات. داتا اكسس كانت انت دلوقتي يعني كان من سنتين كان ان انت حوالي عشان تطلب اي بيان او توصل ليه وتحصل عليه سواء بشكل ورقي او بشكل اوتوماتيك من غير سرد كان بياخد 15 يوم عمل. احنا دلوقتي الوصول للبيان من خلال منصه سرد في خلال اقل من 10 ثواني. اي نوع من انواع البيانات انت متوفر لك اكسس تو 500 فيتشر كلاس متنوعين على كل الانواع البيانات الحضريه. ومعانا احد الشركاء ويعني اللي احنا مكناهم من المنصه وهو شريك في المخطط الاقليمي، انتج اكثر من 1000 خريطه في اخر 6 شهور بناء على توفر البيانات ليه. فهو تمكن من عمل اطلس انتج من خلاله اكثر من 1000 خريطه في خلال فتره لا تزيد عن 6 شهور. وطبعا حضراتكم عارفين ان ده رقم كبير جدا بالنسبه للمده دي. وعندنا التكنولوجيز اللي موجوده، احنا حاليا بنتعامل مع اكثر من 10 تكنولوجيز زي ما انا وضحت قبل كده. ده سرد الامباكت بتاع التاثير بتاع سرد. التاثير بتاع سرد زي ما وضحنا ان احنا كنا في 2022 بنحتاج 15 يوم عمل للوصول لاي بيان. احنا دلوقتي في اقل من 10 ثواني تقدر توصل لمؤشرات حضريه، تقدر توصل لاستخدامات الاراضي، تقدر توصل لمشروع تنموي وحالته وتفاصيله بالكامل، تقدر توصل لكل انواع البيانات، الانفراستراكشر، الطرق، كل ده توصله في اقل من 10 ثواني. كان عندنا في 2022 90 فيتشر كلاس، دلوقتي احنا عندنا 528 فيتشر كلاس. كان عندنا برودكتس وسيرفيس زي اللي انا استعرضتها لحضراتكم 3 فقط في 2022. احنا دلوقتي عندنا 20 منتج وعندنا 40 خدمه، وان شاء الله ده قابل للزياده. المنتجات والخدمات زي ما قلنا ان هي بتوفر الحلول التقنيه لكل اداره على حده. والداتا ريكورد، الداتا ريكورد احنا كان عندنا 50 مليون داتا ريكورد في 2022. احنا دلوقتي عندنا اكتر من 307 مليون داتا ريكورد بتوفرهم سرد للمنطقه الشرقيه بالكامل. احنا كان هدفنا في سرد ان احنا نساعد في تنميه منطقتنا المنطقه الشرقيه ونبقى لينا دور فعال ونسهل عمليه التنميه. ولسه الخطط مستمره، وبنشكركم على حسن الاستماع.
شكرا نعمان. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Thank you for being here. That brings us to the end, but we have time for some questions. So if anybody has questions, put your hand up and we'll work through those. Yes, please.
هو احنا حاليا الوضع الراهن بتاعنا لسه مفيش منتجات تخص. هو بيسأل هل المنتجات اللي موجودة في سرد ال20 حاليا هل فيهم شيء في القطاع الصحي؟ احنا زي ما وضحنا هنا ال20 منتج حاليا لا يشمل ولا القطاع الصحي ولا القطاع التعليمي. القطاعين دول بالذات لسه عندنا خطة لإضافتهم، عشان كده احنا هنلاقي في علامة إضافة بلس، إن احنا لسه في خطة مستمرة لتطوير المنتجات في إزري. الحاجات دي حاليا احنا كنا مركزين على البنية التحتية وعلى الأشياء اللي هي احنا نقدر نوصل للبيانات بتاعتها بسهولة ونقدم قيمة مضافة من خلالها لأعمال الهيئة. ولكن في الفترة القادمة إن شاء الله هيكون في خطط للتطور وهيكون في منتجات للخدمات الصحية والتعليمية. الله. احنا ان شاء الله احنا الجهات الحكوميه، السؤال مره تانية هو بيسال هل المنصه متاحه للبابليك. حاليا احنا في اطار اطلاق الاصدار الثاني. ان شاء الله في خلال وقت بسيط جدا هيكون الاطلاق للاصدار الثاني يتيح المنصه للبابليك. ولكن احنا في وضعنا الحالي احنا بنتعامل مع كافه الجهات الحكوميه. احنا عندنا اكثر من 50 جهه مسجله داخل المنصه وليهم يوزرز ويقدروا يدخلوا يشوفوا البيانات بالكامل ويشوفوا المنتجات بالكامل. ولكن في خلال فتره قريبه جدا ان شاء الله هتكون متاحه للبابليك بعد اطلاق الاصدار الثاني. السؤال ان هل عندنا من المنتجات اللي بيتابع المراقبه البيئيه والتلوث وكده. احنا عندنا منتج اسمه ستاديز اند بوليسز، هو مسؤول عن وتم عرضه بالامس جزء منه اطلس بيئي. المنتج هو مسؤول عن الدراسات والسياسات البيئيه. الدراسات والسياسات البيئيه موجود فيه داشبورد كامله للاطلس بالكامل، موجود فيه مؤشرات بيئيه. المؤشرات البيئيه دي منها نسب التلوث ومنها البي ام 10 ومتابعه الارقام بي ام 2.5، وكل الارقام دي موجوده في المنصه في منتج اللي اسمه الدراسات والسياسات. وبرضو المنتج احنا لسه قاعدين بنطوره لاضافه الكثير من المؤشرات الجديده، ولكن احنا حاليا فعلا في المنصه فيه. احنا المنتج بتاع الدراسات والسياسات هو السؤال بيقول هل يشمل مساحات لمواقع التلوث. المنتج الموجود حاليا هو احنا في الاصل بنعتمد على بيانات الجهات في معظم الاشياء. احنا جهه منتجه لبعض البيانات، ولكن احنا بنتعاون مع اكثر من 50 جهه في ان هم يمدونا بالبيانات. احنا حاليا عندنا الجزء بتاع المواقع التلوث غير متوفر، ولكن احنا بنتعاون مع الشركاء وفي استمرار للتعاون ده ان احنا ان شاء الله يبقى متوفر عندنا في المرحله القادمه المواقع بتاعه التلوث، لان هي طبعا لها اثر كبير في عمليه التنميه. اتفضل. الله يعافيك. اتفضل. صحيح. اجاوب على السؤال الاول عشان اقول لهم برضو السؤال واجاوب. السؤال بيقول هل التحدي دائما في البيانات بيكون من خلال التحديث المستمر للبيانات، وهل انتوا عندكم ربط مباشر للبيانات مع الجهات او لا؟ السؤال طبعا مهم جدا، لان ده اكتر شيء بيبقى مشكله للمنصات. انت تقدر تبني منصه بشكل جيد ولكن عدم تحديث البيانات يخليها بعد سنه لا قيمه لها. احنا فعلا عندنا فريق بيانات كبير وعندنا جداول لكل طبقه بيانات بتقول دوريه التحديث للبيان كل فتره قد ايه. يعني ايه البيانات اللي احنا بنحتاج نحدثها كل 3 شهور، ايه البيانات اللي احنا بنحددها كل 6 شهور. برضو النقطة الإضافية اللي هو أضافها، هل في تعاون مباشر مع الأمانة في ربط؟ احنا فعلا أمانة المنطقة الشرقية عندنا ربط مباشر معاها من خلال أي تعديل بيتم في الداتابيز بتاعهم. في التعديل احنا بنعكسه كل 24 ساعة. ايوه، وفي اي بي ربط من خلال الاي بي. احنا اي تعديل بيحصل في الامانه في قاعده بيانات الامانه بيسمع عندنا بعد 24 ساعه. وده طبعا احنا عشان السيستمز تكون قادره، فاحنا اخترنا ان التحديث يكون كل 24 ساعه. فده الرد على السؤال الاول. وغير الامانه، احنا كل الجهات طبعا الامانه لان التحديث بشكل مستمر، فده احنا محتاجين اي بي اكسس، فاحنا عاملين فعلا اي بي ورابطين معاهم بشكل مباشر. ولكن بقيه الجهات احنا بنتواصل معاهم من خلال دوريه تحديث البيان. احنا عندنا لكل طبقه، لكل فيتشر كلاس عندنا محدد زمن التحديث. ايه اللي محتاج يتحدث كل 3 شهور، كل 6 شهور، كل سنه. وبناء عليه عندنا الارم بيطلع لنا. فريق البيانات بيعاني طبعا دايما في المشكله دي، ان الطبقه دي محتاجه نحدد حاليا، فبنخاطب الجهات ونحدث كل البيانات. اتفضل السؤال الثاني. اتفضل اتفضل. السؤال بيبقى عيد برضو السؤال بيقول زي سدايا ايه اللي احنا نستفيدوا منها، وايه الجهات الاخرى طريقه الربط معاها بتتم بشكل عامل ازاي. السؤال الاجابه هنا ان احنا سوق البيانات اصلا في سدايا لسه شيء جديد. فاحنا احنا دلوقتي رابطين معاه بشكل مباشر، ولكن احنا اللي بنحدد ايه البيانات اللي احنا بنحتاجها من كل جهه. يعني احنا بنتواصل مع الجهات واحنا عارفين ايه الخطه بتاعتنا للطبقات اللي احنا محتاجينها من الجهه دي. الجيوسا عندنا تعامل معاها، عارفين ايه الطبقات اللي احنا محتاجينها بشكل محدد. سدايا نفس الامر. فاحنا عندنا رود ماب لينا للبيانات، وبناء عليه بنتواصل مع الجهات يعني من خلال هذه الرود ماب. احنا الجهات السؤال بيقول الربط من خلال اتفاقيات تعاون ولا هل في بيع للبيانات، صح كده؟ الإجابة حاليا مفيش أي بيع للبيانات، ولا أعتقد أن هو مستقبلا. إحنا منصة لهيئة تطوير المنطقة الشرقية. فهيئة تطوير المنطقة الشرقية ليها مانديت، ليها نظام أساسي لا يشمل بيع البيانات، وهي جهة حكومية خدمية تهدف أعمال التنمية، تهدف لخدمة أعمال التنمية في المنطقة الشرقية. السؤال بيقول برضو طريقة الربط للبيانات مع الجهات المختلفة. هنا دلوقتي الحكومة السعودية دلوقتي شغالة في ان يبقى في قنوات ربط موحدة على مستوى كل الجهات من خلال سوق البيانات اللي في سدايا. طبعا التجربة لسه لم تصل للنضج الكافي، ولكن في مرحلة ما هيوصل. احنا في الوضع الحالي عندنا اتفاقيات تعاون، وعندنا ربط مع بعض الجهات باي بي بشكل مباشر. ولكن في المرحلة القادمة ان شاء الله هيكون سوق البيانات بيوفر ده لكل الجهات الحكومية بشكل متاح. بالمعنى الحرفي للكلمه، اللي هو سوق البيانات هيوفر سوق للبيانات انت حضرتك بتقدر من خلاله يكون في تواصل مع الجهات بشكل مباشر، وربط مباشر بين الجهات الحكوميه. صحيح 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 صحيح. اكرر السؤال لان برضه مش واضح للناس. يعني السؤال بيقول ان ازاي انا اربط مع سرد بشكل مباشر بعيدا عن سوق البيانات عشان استفيد من البيانات المتاحه حاليا في سرد. احنا حاليا فعلا بنعمل اتفاقيات تعاون وشراكات مع الجهات بشكل منفرد، وبيكون من خلالها الجهه بتحصل على يوزر نيم وباسورد. اليوزر نيم وباسورد دول تقدر تدخل بيهم على المنصه بشكل كامل، وتقدر يعني تشوف كل البيانات المتاحه فيها من خلال اليوزر نيم والباسورد بعد ما يتم تسجيل الجهه لدينا. طالما هي جهه حكوميه التعاون ده بيتم بشكل مباشر بيننا وبينهم. كده واضح؟ صحيح. إعادة السؤال، مين اللي بيدير سرد؟ هل الجي اي اس ولا هل الاي تي ولا طريقة إدارة سرد بتتم ازاي وإجراءات الحوكمة بتاعتها؟ احنا في المنطقة الشرقية طبعا أكيد واضح إن الجهد ده لن يتم إلا بدعم قيادات الهيئة نفسهم والقيادة التنفيذية نفسها، لأن طبعا التعاون ده بين الإدارات المختلفة نظريا بيكون سهل، ولكن عمليا في الطبيعة بيكون صعب جدا. فالإدارة المسؤولة أو المالكة للسرد هي إدارة الجايس. الجايس الإدارة العامة للمعلومات والحلول الجيومكانية، ولكن في تعاون كبير جدا بين الجايس، بين الاي تي، بين السايبر سيكيورتي، لان طبعا المنصه لازم تكون تامينها بشكل جيد جدا، والتعاون مع كل ادارات الهيئه. ده بيتم من خلال ان احنا عملنا ورش. احنا خدنا رحله طويله جدا في اداره التغيير، وان ازاي تقتنع الادارات ان هي تكون لازم يعني ده هيسهل لها اعمالها، لان طبعا هم مصادر البيانات في اشياء كتير، فلازم يكونوا مقتنعين. فاحنا عملنا ده من خلال ورش عمل كبيره جدا على مستوى الهيئه، على مستوى القطاعات، كل القطاعات اللي في الهيئه عملنا معاهم ورش عمل، وضحنا لهم ازاي ده هيسهل الاعمال يعني في رحله طويله جدا من الاجراءات، لحد ما بقى فيه الحمد لله تعاون وفي تناغم بين ادارات الهيئه بالكامل وتحت الامبريلا بتاعت الجي اس. ولكن طبعا برضو العنصرين الكبار المهمين معانا جدا في الحوكمه الاي تي والسايبر سيكيورتي. حلو. السؤال بيقول في السمارت سيتيز، هل في ربط للمؤشرات البيئيه ولا المؤشرات البيئيه عندنا في سرد موجوده في المنتج بتاع الدراسات والسياسات البيئيه، ولكن السمارت سيتيز مختصه اكتر بالربط مع اللايف داتا، المؤشرات البيانات الحيه، البيانات السنسورز وكده، هو ده اللي مسؤول عنه الابلكيشن بتاع السمارت سيتيز. صح. طبعا اللي حضرتك قلت السؤال برضو مره تانية، ان هل السمارت سيتيز لازم السنسورز دي بتقيس مؤشرات بيئيه، فاحنا نقدر نستفيد منها. اللي حضرتك بتقوله صح، بس احنا في حالتنا في حاله سرد المؤشرات البيئيه بناخدها مباشره من خلال ربط، فاحنا مش محتاجين السنسور، ولكن السنسورز خاصه بالسمارت سيتيز لقياس بقى المؤشرات الخاصه بالمدن الذكيه اللي هي دلوقتي ليها ايزو وليها شهادات معتمده خاصه بيها. فانا واضح حالتنا طبعا، انما حضرتك اللي بتقوله صح، اللي يخص السمارت سيتيز يقدر السنسورز تقدر تقيم مؤشرات بيئيه، ولكن احنا في حالتنا معتمدين في المنتج الخاص بالمؤشرات البيئيه على بيانات جايه لنا بشكل مباشر. كم منصه بتتعمل؟ البيانات دي ايه معلش؟ طبعا السؤال اعيده برضو مره تانية. السؤال بيقول ان احنا بنتعامل مع انواع مختلفه كتير جدا من البيانات، ازاي بنضمها لقاعده البيانات الموحده؟ وده تحدي كبير طبعا، تحدي احنا واجهناه في سرد. احنا عندنا فريق بيانات كبير بيحاول ان هو كل البيانات زي اللي احنا عرضناها. شريحه اللي قبل لا هنا ثانيه. احنا بنقدر نتعامل مع كل انواع البيانات دي، فاحنا فعلا فريق البيانات بيعاني ان احنا نقدر ندمجها في قاعده البيانات الموحده، ولكن احنا بنتعامل مع كل بيان على حده لحد ما وصلنا الحمد لله لطريقه بيست يعني بيست الممارسه الافضل او الممارسه العالميه الافضل، ان احنا نقدر نضم كل القواعد البيانات دي في قاعده بيانات موحده. دلوقتي داخل سرد عندنا البيانات اللي هي خاصه بالمؤشرات، عندنا البيانات الاحصائيه، عندنا بيانات التخطيط الحضري، عندنا بيانات الانفراستراكشر، عندنا بيانات جايه من سنسورز. ده احنا قدرنا نعمله، بس هو يعني لتوضيحه تفصيليا هيحتاج وقت اطول شويه، لان احنا بنتعامل على كل حاله على حده يعني كل بيان بنتعامل معاه بشكل مختلف. ايوه طبعا في ستاندر، في الستاندر للبيانات، وفي جيوسا منزله ستاندر، واحنا عملنا موديل داخلي بناء على الدمج بين جيوسا وبين المودلز الثانيه. بقى عندنا الاستراكشر بتاعنا من خلال البيانات. طبعا معتمد يعني خدنا جزء من جيوسا وجزء من جهات اخرى، وعملنا الاستراكشر بتاعنا وبنينا عليه، وتعاملنا مع البيانات اللي بتجيلنا بنفس بالموديل اللي احنا شغالين بيه. اتفضل. عليكم السلام. حلو. السؤال بيقول هل نقدر نوصل للبيانات دي قبل قبل اطلاق الاصدار الثاني؟ الطريقه للوصول للبيانات دي قبل اطلاق الاصدار الثاني هو ان الجهه يتم توقيع بيننا وبينهم شراكه، ونقدر ندي لحضرتك لاي جهه حكوميه يوزر نيم وباسورد تقدر تدخل للمنصه بشكل كامل، تطلع على البيانات. طبعا في تصنيف للبيانات السريه والمقيده هتبقى طبعا مش متاحه للكل، ولكن برضو بيبقى ممكن ليها يعني ان احنا يبقى ليها طلبات معينه بشكل خاص بيها، ولكن تقدر توصل لمعظم البيانات الموجوده من خلال التعاون بيننا وبين الجهه بشكل مباشر، ووجود يوزر نيم وباسورد. لعمل البحوث والدراسات احنا حاليا ده لسه مش متاح عبر المنصه. احنا التعاون حاليا بين الجهات الحكوميه فقط، ولكن ان شاء الله بعد اطلاق الاصدار الثاني هيكون في تنويع، وهيكون في ان احنا نسمح للبحوث. حضرتك اكيد شفتهم في، احنا من الفئات اللي احنا مستهدفينها الطلبه والباحثين، فده مستهدفينه، بس ده مش في الوضع الراهن بعد اطلاق الاصدار الثاني ان شاء الله. شكرا. شكرا كده خلاص الاستفسارات.
Thank you. Shukran jazilan. One last point. We're looking at establishing a community of practice for our city and local government users across Saudi Arabia. So if you're working in cities or municipalities or local government and you'd like to join our community of practice, it'll have events, sharing information, best practices with each other. Scan the QR code, register your interest on the survey, and we'll be in touch soon when we start to get some plans together for that. So thank you for coming. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for the questions, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope that you enjoyed the day yesterday and the plenary. I hope you enjoyed the user stories, Jack's presentation, and everything. And today we have similar sessions. A lot of them related to the AI. I don't know if you noticed or not, but the sub-theme of the event is GeoAI, because AI is very important now. And normally when we're talking about AI, we start talking about the importance of it. But today we'll not do that. We will focus on 2 points. But before starting our presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Karim Hamdi. I'm Regional Business Development Manager at Esri. And I have my colleague Ahmed. And also we have guest of honor from Aramco, Hussein and Muhammad. Would you like to stand up and say hi to the audience? Okay. So Hussein and Muhammad, they have a very interesting story, and they will talk about it by the end of the session. So let me go back to the AI. Everyone knows the importance of the AI, but is it just a buzzword or something that would bring value to the organizations? So in Esri, we believe that it must bring innovation and value to the organization. So today we will focus on two things. Number one is the ROI, the return of investment. So when we do investment on something, we need to maximize the return of it. We need to either gain money, which is most probably the case, but it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about saving lives, that we can measure it. Even if we're talking saving life, we need to have some sort of measurements. It's not just innovation that doesn't bring any value. So this is very important. And today we'll focus on that. We'll see some examples, and even we'll see some numbers, which is rarely you can see it. So we did assessments for AI projects that brought value to organization, and we were able to assess that. Actually, not us, the customer or who implemented it, were able to assess that and come up with number. So we have some numbers. Also, our guests here, they have a very, very good story, and also they have some tangible numbers that shows really the value of the AI and the GIS. So this is number one. Number two, the location. Everyone is talking about AI, but not all of them are aware of the value of the location. The location is a very important aspect in the AI. So when you talk about AI powered by location, it maximizes the value of the output. So this is very crucial. And luckily, I assume most of you are GISers. So luckily, we are in this domain because we can add huge value in that area. So yeah, everyone knows AI, but not everyone knows GIS and capable of using it. So we will talk about that as well, and see how to work with AI and GIS at the same time. So let's focus on the location. So of course, you know, the location, when we talk about the location with AI, it's very important because everything is related to the location. Everything related to the where. You are aware of Esri's slogan, which is science of where. So if we're talking about people, they have to be in somewhere, right? Assets, it has all of them have location. Objects, all of them have objects. So that's really important when we're talking about AI to consider the location. Talking about assets with sensors, for example. Even the sensor, they have location. So all of these things are very important. So when we talk about that, we will see in our examples how to use that in the AI to bring value to the organization. So why Esri is different? Since we're talking about GIS, Esri is the market leader of the GIS worldwide. So Esri has an amazing platform, and I assume most of you used it. So we have many components of the platform, and all these components are working together in one ecosystem. So having all these components working together without it changing the work that you are doing and add to it AI components, that's a huge added value. So they have to work together to bring value.
I think I can just amend to this one. You guys can hear me, right? Yeah. I think it's the dilemma. Should we have an AI and build GIS around it? Should we have a GIS and then build the AI around it? I think this part is, since we're a technology company, we've been working in the geospatial for the last 60 years, like decades of work and decades of functionalities around the data management and the core, the GIS and everything. I think our vision around this is to leverage what we've built from a geospatial capabilities and then infuse the AI in all the aspects that you can have from the platform. So I think that for our users that are looking for the geospatial technology fused with the GeoAI, it's making the story a lot easier for them. And we're going to see that down the road when we talk about the examples. Sorry,
yeah, thank you. So when I talk about infuse the AI in the platform, So we are talking about a lot of AI models, pre-trained models, infused in the platform. Who was aware about that? Who used that before? Good. Okay. Okay, not bad. So we have 100 plus AI model in our platform. So you already have that. You can go home today and use it. So this is an important session to let you know about that. So we need to work, and Esri, we need to work on that to let you know about that, because we noticed that not everyone is aware of that. So this is very important that we plugged all these things inside the platform, so it will not interrupt your work. You will keep doing what you are doing. In addition to that, you can add AI models and use that output to complement what you have been doing using the platform, which is a great thing.
Yeah, so the pre-trained model is one shortcut to get you started with AI, right? I mean, for you that have used AI before, you know the cycle. You need to train the data or do data engineering if you're dealing about features, or data preparation, and then you need to pick the model, and then you need to run different trials to get certain accuracy, and then you're happy with that, come back, and then you inference on the top of that. The other way, or maybe an easier way, we're not excluding the longer path, but we're helping our customers and giving them an initial push. And that's what we're doing with our pre-trained AI models. Through our journey with customers, through our developing of our products, we're actually availing those models that we're using or training internally on our base maps, on our data, on our analytical tools, and availing them to our customers. This has been growing over the years. I think now we're at 109 pre-trained models. All what you can do is download these models and start using them right off the bat. If they did not suit your use case, maybe you want to fine-tune them with your own local data, or maybe find another model. And they cover a lot of aspects, as you can see. So they can serve in many industries. If you're working in utilities or natural resources or public safety, or state and local government, you will find various models that probably will help you, or at least get you started and get familiar, and might do the job for you. So that's something that we think is going to fast accelerate the experience for our users. So let's talk, I'm not going to talk a little bit technical because there are other sessions that will talk about the AI, but let's talk about, for the business people, where do we have the AI capabilities within our platform? If we take a step back, like what are the main functions any AI system can do as of now? So AI can take pictures and can see the content inside it and extract stuff, can read the text and then give us the information, can create, like ChatGPT likes, can create content that doesn't exist before, can learn from your data and then predict or do something like that, can do some chatting and analyze the data as well. This is the traditional world of AI. But when we bring this world to the GeoAI, we fuse these different patterns into the GeoAI, and you'll find from your industry or from your business a discipline where the map can easily be fused in one of those use cases. So for example, in the example of sea, GIS system contains massive amount of imagery and deals a lot with imagery. So when you're leveraging those AI libraries, you can extract information or extract objects from those data that you have. AI vector data is a gold mine of data sets that are available out there. Historical hurricanes data, or historical earthquakes data, or historical utility failures. You can take those data and start with the information of the geo as part of that data and start analyzing that using some of the machine learning algorithms. Like if you're running a multimodal or a time series or a regression, you can do that. You can leverage that as well if you have some content or text file or PDFs, and you want to extract the geospatial information and place it on the map. Think of it as title deeds, for example, or maybe accident reports. It will have information about the person and also the location of the accident. So when we bring this to the GIS, you can extract the attributes data and also the location and put it on the map. Also, we have other models that can learn from your data, improve the model, and provide better output from there. The last part is about the creation. There are several common algorithms where you can improve the quality of the imagery, super resolution, for example, or maybe use it for cloud removal from your imagery and improve that as well. So this is just a glimpse of where GeoAI fits within our platform. There are two main branches for the GeoAI or for the AI within our platform generally. We have the GeoAI, which deals the science of the GIS infused with the AI, so you can analyze, extract insights from the data, extract objects from the data, and so on. And then the second trendy part, which is the assistant part. We all use it, ChatGPT. So everyone now, the expectations are very high. They want all the websites, all the tools to be AI assistant enabled. And that's another aspect that we're thinking about. So we're bringing both, I mean, we've been bringing them for the last few years to the platform. So we have them as part of an experience within the platform of ArcGIS. So from a GeoAI perspective.
Yeah, if you allow me, Ahmed. So quick comment on the GeoAI assistant. So we have that tool, or not tool, it's a ChatGPT alike. So you can, instead of doing the tasks yourself inside the platform, you can just write the thing that you want, and the AI will help you to configure or run the tasks that you want to run in the platform itself.
To give you a glimpse of the capabilities that you can do, and if you guys come from a business background, the sky is the limit from possibilities when you think about it. If you're dealing with any type of text data with a location aspect, you can deal with that modality within the GeoAI part of the platform. If you're dealing with any vector or time series data, you can deal with that within the GeoAI. Or if you're dealing with any imagery or even video or 3D, you can bring the GeoAI libraries and use it for tracking objects or change detection or classification or any of the other aspects as well. When it comes to the assistants, as Karim said, we're bringing the intuitive, easy to use experience, and that's actually from a business is very important, because how many times, if you guys are not a GIS expert, you go to the GIS expert and ask them a GIS question like how many records that we have in this table, or I want you to create a map for me that will show this. What if we eliminate that? So we're bringing actually more non-GIS users to the GIS world, and the way we're doing this is infuse the experience. So in the existing applications or technologies that we have, like the Pro or the mobile application or the web application, we're adding the chat GPT-like and the assistant-like that will first interact with the user, reply on questions. And then the second part that we keep evolving is actually execute functions. Like right now, I'm very bad at doing maps and cartography. I hate it. I don't like the colors. And we have an assistant now that you can give it the data and tell it create a map that represents or signifies the population. So it'll go automatically for me, do some logic, and create an amazing map for me. So this is what we're looking for that, and we're improving and adding to that as well. The next part is going to be real user cases that have leveraged GeoAI or some of the assistant capabilities, so you guys can get a glimpse of possibilities across different industries.
Yeah, so I think we have short time, so we will go through the use cases very quickly. But if you are interested in one specific use case, please raise your hand and I'll focus on that.
Yeah, so various use cases. Like, for example, I want to predict the urban growth in my city. That's something that you can leverage AI with the training, with the proper training to do that. You have a picture that captured by drone, and you want to know how many trees in that picture. AI actually can answer that question now in a very faster manner. Think of the trees as something else. It can be buildings, it can be assets, it can be any other thing that you can see in the imagery, and you can leverage that. Like one of our users, they used to do the road crack detection across the road. So instead of manually going and detecting that, they went on the road, used a video camera, took that video feed, analyzed it, and then automatically generated a GIS product that will show the locations of these cracks across the road. Another customer is leveraging the CCTV camera activity. So instead of looking at, like in traffic department or police department, instead of looking at the video wall of 20 cameras and monitoring the different cameras, you can actually use an AI to identify the different types of traffic that are happening in that segment and count them, show them on the map, and then use the power of the GIS symbology will tell you how the congestion is this. I'll show you an example from one of our customers in Washington, D.C. Look at that, looking at over 40 cameras, and then doing that counting automatically, and then classifying the different types of traffic in a fast manner. Compare that to looking at those 40 cameras by human eye. Impossible to detect anything that will happen there. So that's what the AI will deliver to you, the faster, so you can make decisions like, oh, there is a congestion in this area, let's do some action. Another different example from different world, and I think this is something is around the region, التشوه البصري or the blight or overgrowth and so on. So you can leverage AI, drive a car. You all have seen GeoSacar that is parked out there that captures the streets using the 360 cameras. So you can use the imagery captured from there, pass them to an AI so you can identify if that's like a violation or no, identify these on the map, and then show this in a dashboard application. Another example from another world where you can use a heavy density data set like the LiDAR, for example, where you can extract assets. So this is an example of an electric company. Instead of manually going and digitalizing their electric assets, they flew an aerial plane, captured that with a LiDAR sensor, and then used the deep learning to classify their electric lines and the other electric poles and the other assets that they're looking for. I think they saved, I don't remember the numbers, but they saved a lot of time on that. The last example that we have here is from a different world, predictions. Like how good is it that if we can predict the accidents, right? Of course, that requires a lot of data just to set the expectation right. But what can cause an accident, right? It can be the time of the day, it can be the season, it can be the school's timing is going out, it can be the weather, it can be the curvature of the road, it can be the width of the road, it can be the speed limit of the road. If we have all that data accumulated in accidents for many years, can we study and figure out which one is significant so we can design or fix the problem? Impossible to do by hand, to be honest with you. Impossible to do or analyze it by humans. And that's why AI can come in handy. And that's an example, I think, from Arizona, where they leveraged that model. They got all these factors and studied it. And then the output is the most possible or critical road intersections where accidents are probable to happen, and then the reason behind that. So they can go and fix the reason behind that. Other examples about the assistance, which is the intuitive experience that we're talking about, it's coming to our platform. So this is an example of instant apps with assistant infused in. You can start interacting with the application that have the map, and you start asking it questions like how many trees that are there, or find the parcels. That you can see it's not only just answering your questions, it's actually doing functions on the application to get you the response. I think that's enough quick examples. I hope it was quick. To move to the next part where we're talking about the business and value and ROI. Yeah, please. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. That's a very good question. Let me answer the last one first.
Can you repeat the question, please? Because
yeah, okay, so I'll repeat the question. So 2 questions. One question is, for the assistant experience that we have, is it only text-based, or can I provide additional information like voice, for example, and it will respond to me, or maybe it can generate output in charts or some other stuff as well. The out-of-the-box that we have right now is text-based. The output might show some charts, might show some outputs on the map. For the additional experiences, if we want to leverage voice as well, and we've done it with so many customers, it's an open API for us. So you can bring whatever part that you want to integrate. I've seen customers have the same kind of experience, but they built on the top of that to add the voice. So now it's voice navigation through like find me the location or do something this and that in the map. So that's something that we do. And to answer to that point, we have a part within the platform, we call it the AI framework, that contains our policies about the AI, because a big part of the AI is the trust. Which model are you using? What is the biases? Are we want to fine-tune these things? And what's the transparency? Is the data being transmitted over the internet, which is a big concern of a lot of the customers as well. So we're designing the AI framework to support that. And part of the AI framework, you can bring your own AI models and leverage them as well. So it will regulate how you want to extend the AI capabilities as well. For your first question, if you want to use AI, we had a use case where constructed the road networks from GPS points as a source. So random GPS points with their accuracy for various trips in the desert, and then there was an algorithm that was used to construct the routes. We can chat later more about this if you.
So let's recap that part again, and let's go back to the point that we raised in the beginning of the meeting. So the ROI again. So the value of it, we have to focus on it. So all of the examples that you have seen, all of them brought value to the customers. So either improving the operation cost, improve the decision making, provide reliable data to the decision makers, even money generation. So all of these examples have proven that AI can be used to bring value to the organization. So with numbers, as I told you, our friends here will show you some numbers, and even from our side, we have a very good example, our case study from the Dutch cadastre. We have here the two examples. So the first one is the traditional way of generating a map, the digitization. You are familiar with the digitization. So they used the traditional way, and it took them 28 digitizers and 5 years to finish a map. When they changed that and used the AI, they were able to just do the job by one person only, and it took them 3 weeks instead of 5 years. Can you imagine that? Actually, in the traditional way, when they finished the task, the map was obsolete, was outdated. It was useless. And this is another big factor. So you invested all of this money and effort from the team to build this map, and by the end, it's not that valuable. However, on the other way, it saved money, it saved effort, and the data was accurate. So how to start? So all of these examples, they didn't start like that. It was a journey. So the journey started with something small. Yeah, probably big vision. They look at the end goal, they thought about the ROI, and they started with something small. So our advice to you guys, start with something small. Especially you already have the AI models in the platform, so you already have it. Start thinking about big idea, but start with a small thing and scale it up. So that's our advice, because many people are thinking, oh, I need to do big thing.
Yeah, I need a data scientist, I need a Python specialist. No, actually, we have a lot of experiences out of the box. Just give it a try. If you have the platform, just give it a try. You're not losing anything. Start with a small area. Start experimenting. Start looking for tutorials online. A lot of them actually doesn't require coding experience. So that's something where you can start and then grow it from there. Yeah, please.
So, please.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, you can use the base map imagery if you want to use it for the AI. There are certain limits. You cannot run it on the world, of course. Otherwise, you'll take Amazon down. But you can run it in certain extent. Actually, the world base map imagery, for example, enables you to download extents, and you can work offline. Yeah, as a quick start. We can talk about this after the session. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, this is a good question, because even I mentioned the models are in the platform, but also in the model you can access data from other sources, and this is something we were going to talk about it in the other session. So to wrap up, the takeaways: we need to focus on the end goal. we need to think about the ROI. This is very, very important. Okay, start small. Don't think big, yes, but start small.
And addressing the topics that you'd like to. So to get started on this topic, when we look at the critical infrastructure that our nations are responsible for to support the activities and work of government, we see governments building infrastructure for transportation, infrastructure for utilities, civic infrastructure like schools and health facilities, hospitals, and so on, all of which support the sort of a modern democratic government. And these sort of infrastructure has been taking place over many, many years. But now in the 21st century, we're really seeing a move to also investment from a governmental standpoint in information infrastructure. And that's now kind of a critical thing. And of course, geospatial is a key part of a government's infrastructure from a digital perspective as well. So geospatial authorities are the organizations that really play a key role in providing a nation's geospatial infrastructure. These are the statistical agencies, the topographic mapping agencies, aeronautical and bathymetric organizations, survey and statistics organizations, land records and addressing. These are the organizations that provide the foundational data about land, sea, air, and people that are key and critical to support the work of modern government today. And they do this by capturing this data and providing it in a system of record. That then supports other organizations and agencies of government to use that information and data, as well as NGOs and citizens and the private sector, to leverage that information and in new ways through applications as a system of engagement. And ultimately, that then supports analytical processes, decision-making through a system of insight in a kind of structure that looks a little bit like this. So geospatial authorities are the organizations that help nations to unlock opportunities within those countries. They help them look for economic development opportunities, but they also support social and environmental advancements as well. They support the addressing of critical challenges at a national level using authoritative data. And they do this through a range of different ways, from visualizing information, analyzing, integrating information with other data, acting in responsible ways. So as I mentioned, geospatial authorities are responsible for this authoritative data about a nation. They're also, though, responsible for other things, such as establishing the standards, the policies, and the governance that goes with that to ensure that data is both true and to be used. But they're also responsible for the enterprise-wide integration of information, operational, analytical, and other workflows and processes. Now, Esri has supported organizations like this for many years, and here's a snapshot of a few from the Ordnance Survey, the National Mapping Agency in the UK, where I'm from. The Danish Geodata Agency as well have been a long-time customer of Esri, working in this domain. And of course, here in the Kingdom, GeoAI have been working with Esri for many years to support the work that they're doing as a geospatial authority and the regulator here for the Kingdom. We look at the data perspective for the work that these organizations do. There are a set of fundamental data themes that have been laid out by the UN GGIM, and these are listed. These are the minimum primary data sets that a geospatial authority provides through their work. And these are really information data that cannot be derived from any other source. So settlements, land parcels, elevation, geological information, imagery data, geographic names and addresses, and so on. These are the fundamental data sets that geospatial authorities are indeed responsible for. And here you can see a few examples of some of the organizations that we've worked with over the years in different domain areas. We have aeronautical charting and bathymetric mapping from organizations in Denmark and Canada. National geospatial organizations like GeoAI here in the Kingdom, but also the work of the government of Malta that I've been supporting over the last few years. There are statistics organizations like SCAD in Abu Dhabi who are doing work to capture and disseminate statistical information on a regular basis. And then geologic information, everybody knows about USGS and their work across the United States. And then traditional sort of land and survey type applications as well. Department of Land and Survey in Cyprus, who recently moved to a parcel fabric implementation. And then LANSD, the Hong Kong Lands Department as well, a long-time user of Esri technology. So all of these organizations and more are really leveraging a comprehensive set of capabilities that's provided by ArcGIS to support the work that they're doing. This includes tools for collecting information, data collection techniques, or aerial mapping, drone survey data collection also. Then through to the way that we manage quality, QA, QC, the way we implement workflows to process information and data and manage it in appropriate ways. Then there's a workflow to produce mapping outputs, topographic mapping, bathymetric, aeronautical charting, and other uses and other cartographic outputs that are typically the end products of some of these geospatial authorities' work. And then lastly, from a digital perspective, how that's disseminated using web portals, web services, spatial data infrastructure, and other mapping outputs, and shared and enabling collaboration both within agencies and across government as a whole. Of course, this can be done at a number of different scales, right, starting with the sort of project level usage that many of you are probably familiar with, right up to a systems implementation where you may have a few departments within an agency that are collaborating and sharing amongst themselves, right up to this sort of modern system of systems approach, where when you think about integrated geospatial infrastructure, you've got multiple agencies of government who are working with a distributed collaboration type of approach, sharing information with each other dynamically using web services, accessing that through portals and hubs, making it available to other parties like the public, NGOs and non-profit organizations, and as Jack has described before, creating a planet where you've got all of this interoperable data accessible and at everyone's fingertips. Now, of course, we heard a lot yesterday about the way that ArcGIS and geospatial in general is advancing, and we see new innovations coming into the technology that we have today. Of course, artificial intelligence is a key area, but also things around 3D visualization, analytics, data science, the way that we access information through apps and use and interact with things on the web. All of these innovations are really driving geospatial authorities to work in a more innovative way. And it's also true that geospatial authorities themselves are in fact in a process of sort of reinvention, if you like. Many of them are evolving. Many of them are actually reorienting themselves to be better aligned to national level government priorities. They're certainly seeing the need to step up and become more relevant, and again, aligning with national objectives. There's a requirement to be responsive, to actively engage not just within their organizations, but to collaborate more effectively with other agencies and with citizens of those countries that they serve. The need for authoritative data is ever increasing. It needs to be trusted, it needs to be of quality, it needs to be safe and assumed and timely as well. And lastly, all of this needs to be done in an efficient way. We cannot, gone are the days, I suppose, where you wait for a few days or weeks to actually access information and to make critical decisions. The expectation is that that information is available to you immediately. So the role of geospatial authorities is indeed evolving, and they're now going beyond the traditional mapping and data provision. Responsibilities are now broader and really stretch into this realm of integrated geospatial infrastructure, or from public safety to... They're also actually bringing use the other one. That's working now? Let me see if I can put this. Is that working now? You can hear? Okay, good, good. I thought the battery was running out. Yes, so enabling the delivery of actionable insights through the work that they're doing from a governance perspective as well. And then lastly, from a leadership perspective, what geospatial authorities are being challenged with is to directly support top priorities. So no longer working in isolation, but really working and understanding the direction, the vision of a government. And here in this region, we see that very clearly with the national level visions that are published and the economic development of a country, and making sure that these organizations are aligned to the work that's happening there. But in doing that, these organizations are facing some new challenges. and some of these may resonate with some of the work that you do. Firstly, there's a deluge of data. Everybody, I think, is struggling now to really make sense of all of this information that's coming to us from different places, from sensors, from systems, from satellites. We're capturing ever more information at an ever faster pace, and it can be challenging for organizations to keep up with that and to really pick out the information and insights and not get lost in the noise in doing so. Additionally, we're seeing an explosion in the technology that's available for these organizations. So there are more systems, there is AI, there's machine learning, there's IoT, there's cloud computing. Gone are the days, as I said, of providing or outputs that are sort of traditional mapping based. The expectation now is digital service delivery. But how do you do that in a landscape where there's so much complex technology there? Your team needs to evolve, it needs to build capacity, and it needs to have the resources to manage that. There are higher expectations from the organizations that these agencies serve. Real-time information needs to be made available. It needs to be authoritative, and it needs to be done at the speed of need. When you think about how organizations responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, and suddenly overnight we saw these dashboards appearing that gave status of what was going on at a city level, at a country level, at a continent-wide level. That's the expectation today. When there's an incident, like a flood or a storm event, having access to immediate weather data and flood maps that are up-to-date and real-time is now the expectation. So how can these organizations evolve to meet this requirement? And as I mentioned just now, collaboration is essential. It's no longer an optional thing. All of the problems that national level organizations face today are complex and they're interlinked. It's not the responsibility of one agency to go and solve a challenge within a community or within a city or within a nation. It requires better collaboration. It requires consensus around challenges and the outcomes and how to take action at an agency-wide level. So holistic decision-making based on authoritative, trusted data is now what's required. So these organizations are really addressing these challenges by taking data and moving from data to information to insight to action. Data needs to be readily accessible. It needs to be ready to analyze, to look for patterns, to look for trends. We need to be able to visualize it clearly through the maps that we create. We need to be able to share that with the people that need it through different means, mobile devices, through the web, and so on. And we need to really move from this kind of raw data to actually having a real-world impact with the action that we take. We can think of this as kind of moving up the value chain, and I think this diagram kind of explains that more clearly. So using GIS and location intelligence, we can really enable geospatial authorities to advance. So starting with the data, how do we store that information in a manageable way? What are the repeatable data models that we can apply to ensure that our data is accessible and understandable to others? How can we align with commonly recognized data formats and approaches? How can we then publish that information in a way that can be integrated into other systems? How can we leverage web services to publish information for maps, for analytical processes that happen downstream? Then when we bring it into an analytical environment, how can we apply the latest machine learning and GeoAI capabilities to automate and provide more efficient outputs from our analytical processes, speeding up the way that we do this work so that we can get those results and those returns more immediately? This is really turning that data into information, creating knowledge. And then this knowledge can be shared in the form of maps, in the form of layers that are readily accessible and easy to access. And then that can be shared into applications, apps that we can access on our phones, on our tablet devices, when we're in the car, when we're in the field, when we're in the office. But also enabling that information to be integrated through APIs into other business systems. So not just keeping it within the geospatial domain, but making sure it's accessible to other users, non-geospatial experts as well. And then lastly, that enables action to be taken, insight to be gained, and the right steps to be taken forward to resolve challenges and take advantage of the opportunities. So to kind of show some of this in action, I'd like to show a couple of case studies. This first one is the Digital Atlas of Australia. That's an output from Geoscience Australia, which is a customer that Esri's worked with for a number of years. They've done some really interesting work around bringing authoritative data together and making it more readily available and actually having a real-world economic impact. Now, I'm going to play a video. If you've got your headset on, you'll hear the audio. If you don't have your headset on, you won't hear the audio, but there are captions. Okay.
To build a brighter future for Australia, we need access to data that's timely, reliable, and relevant to make better informed decisions. But with the increasing amount of data available, finding and using it can be challenging, as it often sits in disconnected silos. This is changing with the Digital Atlas of Australia, an interactive, secure, and easy-to-use online platform that brings together, curates, and connects trusted national datasets. Powered by a digital ecosystem, it seamlessly integrates data across borders and systems on Australia's geography, people, economy, and the environment, using location as the connecting thread. Explore data by theme, like transport, geology and soils, land use, and more. Analyse data on demand using interactive maps and tools. And visualise data, pinpoint areas of interest, upload data, and share information and insights at the click of a button. From optimising planning and investment using infrastructure and population data, to identifying business opportunities with the latest industry and workforce data, and revolutionising agricultural practices, analysing data on soil and geology, water bodies and land use. The Digital Atlas is unlocking the power of smarter, place-based decisions. Explore the Digital Atlas of Australia today at digital.atlas.gov.au.
So I think you'll agree that's a really impressive example of where a geospatial authority has evolved the work that they're doing and integrating information at a national level. So this digital atlas is actually a centralized repository that connects, it curates, and it visualizes national level data sets. It doesn't try to grab all the data and put it into one place, but what it does is it integrates information from the key agencies that are responsible. But it also makes it available to a broad audience, both within government, secure and accessible, but also to the public as well, so that there's trusted, publicly available data for citizens, for residents in Australia to see what's going on in their neighborhoods. So this is enabling better policy, better planning, better decision-making at the national level. And it's really implemented Australia's integrated geospatial infrastructure by bringing data from these federal agencies, so mapping space, geology, statistics, and land, bringing those data offerings from those key areas, from those key agencies, published as web services, as APIs, and integrated into a common set of applications that support things from hydropower, agriculture, mineral exploration, economic planning, social development, and so on. This is really the backbone for decision-making now at a national level within that country, and it's really having a significant impact. And when you think about a location-based system to support decision-making, this is really an exemplar example of how that can be done. What's most interesting to me is the actual return on investment work that they've done here. This has been significantly impactful within Australia. So I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase pre-competitive geoscience. What that means is sort of early land studies and geological studies of a country to understand the mineral exploration and the resource potential of that country. So the Geoscience Australia Atlas actually supported that work at a national level across Australia. And this study by Deloitte found that there was actually $76 billion of additional value to the Australian economy and supported up to 80,000 jobs, which I think is pretty incredible. And that was underpinned by the work that Geoscience Australia had done there. And again, from another economic study, they found that for every dollar that they spent on this pre-competitive geoscience, up to 1,546 additional dollars will be returned back to the economy. So, of course, that's not all underpinned, it's not all driven entirely by the system, but it provides the framework, it provides the underpinnings, it provides the data and information and knowledge to enable organizations across Australia to make those decisions and actually drive that economic impact for the country. These studies are published on the website, so if you're interested in more about how that was done, there's a lot of good reports there that you can go and find online. Now, the second example I'd like to talk about is another long-time Esri user, the Public Authority for Civil Information in Kuwait. Now, this organization is responsible for managing the national civil registry. They issue civil ID cards, identity cards across the country. They're the statistical agency overseeing population data, and they're also responsible for the national base map for the country. And they've worked with Esri over a number of years to actually enhance and improve the way that they do this and maintain this on a regular basis. So they've been using ArcGIS to not just create this base map, but actually recently to derive additional insight from the imagery data that they've been capturing to find things like the mapped roads, the building footprints, and other geographic features directly from the data. So using the deep learning models that are available from Esri, they've applied GeoAI techniques to actually extract this information from data that they're capturing from drones. So in the past, when they were to update this base map, it would take them somewhere around an entire year to update it from the previous version. But now they're able to do this exact same process, but actually gain more value, but do it in a week. So significant time savings, significant financial savings as well. So this is one of the areas of interest where they were doing this work in Kuwait City. This is one of 164 areas of interest. They took drones and they flew this piece of land. And the goal here was really to capture the centimeter level orthomosaics for this area. They actually captured 8,000 or so images from their drones just in that area of interest. That's about 147 gigabytes of raw data. Using ArcGIS Reality and other capabilities within the platform, they were then actually able to output a range of derived data. So the orthomosaic, the digital surface model, the point cloud, the 3D mesh, all of which adds up to quite a significant amount of data. And that's just for that single area of interest, of which there is now 163 of these. Of course, this requires a robust data management system to manage that, but it also requires a robust system to then share that information out in a consumable and easy to access method. Now, more recently, they've started capturing even higher resolution drone data, especially in some of the highly urbanized areas within the city, because they need to understand more accurately the features that are actually on the ground. So using ArcGIS, they were able to manage the seam lines and the overlap areas between, as you can see here from the drone flight imagery. And then they're able to generate these very high quality orthomosaic outputs, which can be used as authoritative data. And then they publish those for government use alongside other vector-based data sets that they're able to extract. So they're basically using the entire ArcGIS system to create this data, capture it, process it, manage it, disseminate it, an entire end-to-end workflow, reducing time, improving the value of the information products that they're offering, and really maximizing the investment they've made in the technology, but also in the drone technology as well. And for the entire country, as you can see, there was over 600,000 individual drone images that were captured and then processed using this system. This is one of the example outputs. This is actually the Esri standard imagery base map that you can see in ArcGIS. You can zoom in, and it's a nice cloud-free image. It's very clear. The resolution is reasonable. But then when you swipe across, you can actually reveal the very high-quality, high-accuracy data that PASI were able to produce from flying drones over the entire city. And when you zoom in, you can really get a sense of the level of accuracy that's going on here. So this provides a much higher level of detail for government users. And then from that, they're able to extract so many additional downstream data sets that they can then publish and make available to the rest of the government. So just to kind of finish up what I'm saying here, I've shown you some examples. I've talked about the evolution of these organizations. I've talked about some of the challenges they're facing. But these things require more than just technology, right? Technology is key. Esri is a technology company. We talk about technology a lot, but it's important not to lose sight of the other ingredients that are required here. Good governance. Geospatial authorities are actually governance organizations in and of themselves. So having the vision, having a leadership standpoint, having the policy, the processes in place to make these things work. Having the right people and investing in them and building capacity to support this evolution, making sure that people are trained on the latest techniques and technologies. As I said earlier, technology is moving so fast that it can be difficult to keep pace with. Having the workflows, having the processes in place, making sure that this information is authoritative and accessible and interoperable, having the systems, the people ready to make these things happen as well. So from a geospatial authority perspective, there's a lot to consider, but this is just a snapshot into some of the things and some of the areas that Esri has been working with recently. Okay, so just moving on, I'd like to introduce my colleague here, Ananya Narain. She's the Vice President of Consulting at Geospatial World. She is a globally recognized strategy and policy leader that's been specializing in social, economic, impact assessments and business strategy development at the intersection of geospatial intelligence, digital infrastructure, and space technologies. And she's going to talk to us this afternoon a little bit about some of the work with geospatial authorities here in the Kingdom. So, Ananya, I'll pass over to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. All right. Thank you, Richard, for setting the tone of why it is important to have an enabling geospatial authority. And just to set the context, I represent an organization, Geospatial World. Some of you might have heard of it. We've been working globally. We've been working with national geospatial authorities to transform and to help them evolve into a regulatory authority, a decision maker who can help and guide the geospatial processes across a country. Given that today, when we look at the geospatial authorities of any country, especially the national mapping agencies, they are the leaders when it comes to how geospatial information has to be managed, how geospatial information has to be processed, and how it can be adopted across the different sectors within a country and also ultimately lead to a significant socio-economic impact. To set the context, we've been working with the National Mapping Agency of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, GeoSA, and we have been helping them. We've studied the socio-economic impact that they have created as an organization, given the enablement that they have received over the last years and how their role has been transformed. So to begin with, I think it's important to set the context from the perspective of that the geospatial ecosystem in itself has evolved if we look at it from how it has moved from perception to cognition to action. What Richard showed that we've moved from data to action today. And when we look at the technology building blocks, we're just not looking at geospatial and space data. We're looking at emerging technologies. We're looking at AI, immersive solutions, IoT, and edge computing. When we look at the integration of all these technology ecosystems, we see industry transformations happening. And these industry transformations are not limited to one sector. They are expanding across multitude of sectors, creating significant benefit and significant socio-economic impact. If we look at the benefits that the ecosystem receives when we talk about the integration of technology, we have innovative solutions, operational efficiency, interactive user engagement, and much more socio-economic benefit. So what that has also led to do is we've assessed how the geospatial market globally has evolved. If we look at the geospatial and space market, because we look at both the technologies together, the market is forecasted to be 1.2 trillion by 2030. And this is because more and more national mapping agencies worldwide are taking charge of how geospatial information has to be used. Geospatial authorities, right from geological agencies to land agencies to space agencies. Each and every organization is playing a decision-making role in the national priorities of a country today. When we look at the Middle East region in particular, that is the fastest growing region. From a Middle East perspective, there are national state-led programs and visions which augment how geospatial information and space data is being used. We are looking at sovereign geospatial investments, sovereign EO investments, and we are looking at national geospatial authorities also accelerating industry development, increasingly supporting innovative solutions, innovations, and market development as well. So the market within the Middle East region for the next 5 years is forecasted to grow by 16% CAGR. And that is significantly high if we look at how the developed countries market is going to grow. But when we talk about the national geospatial ecosystem and what kind of priorities a national geospatial authority needs to have. Some of those topics were addressed by Richard: governance, interoperability, people, processes. All of these are critical to develop a national geospatial ecosystem. But when we look, what we have done is we've identified 5 specific parameters. One of the very important parameters is policy standardization and governance. Second is infrastructure, wherein we move from data to knowledge to wisdom. This is where your fundamental geospatial data themes, as defined by the UN GGIM, are placed. We have the commercial geospatial industry development, the institutional capacity and innovation, and finally, and most importantly, how the technology, the applications are being adopted across the different sectors. When all of these pillars are strengthened, a national geospatial ecosystem with significant socio-economic benefit is established. So to quickly touch upon it, this is the geospatial knowledge infrastructure paradigm. Geospatial World, along with the UN GGIM, has over the last 3 to 4 years developed a framework called the Geospatial Knowledge Infrastructure. This framework talks about how we can transition from a spatial data infrastructure to a geospatial knowledge infrastructure, which is augmented by advanced technologies, which includes a broader stakeholder group, which leads to basically moving from what, where, when, to predicting knowing why, knowing how, and finally leading to a stage where we are deciding and taking an action. This is a framework which helps to identify, helps national geospatial authorities to move up the value chain from not being just focused on data, but moving to an ecosystem where knowledge is encouraged, where knowledge is applied. Now, why am I referring to this framework? The reason being because when we look at this framework, this is the future of geospatial ecosystem. And this is what happens when we enable the national geospatial authorities. To give an example, like I mentioned, we will talk about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. When we look at the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the kingdom has the Vision 2030, which sets national priorities. The 3 priorities that have been very well established are vibrant society, thriving economy, and ambitious nation. From a strategic program point of view, it is divided into transformative programs and strategic executive programs. And one of the biggest focus areas of this Vision 2030 is technology drivers. There is a significant focus on technology as a key component to drive the Vision 2030. And it is good to see geospatial be a part of it. So the kingdom itself has geospatial as a priority when it comes to the Vision 2030. What that also means is which are the critical authorities who are responsible for geospatial information management in the kingdom. One of the core organizations, as all of us are aware, GeoSA is the primary national mapping agency who is driving the transformation of geospatial information within the kingdom. And of course, the interlinkages with different organizations, both private, international, with allied organization, geological, space, all of this collaboration and alignment is what drives the economic benefit that we want to look at. What is also interesting to see is we're looking at geospatial application in kingdom's giga projects. One of the focus area which every one of us have heard is the giga projects that are happening within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have NEOM, we have Diriyah, we have Roshan, MISC. Each and every program, geospatial and geospatial's integration with different technology ecosystems plays an important part. That shows you, and it's important to also understand the partnership the National Geospatial Authority has to support the development of these programs. So when the National Geospatial Authority evolves, it supports the development, it supports the geospatial use across the national priorities of a country. So what that also means is it creates opportunities. Earlier on, we've seen a significant transformation of the National Mapping Authority of the Kingdom. GeoSA has evolved significantly over the last 2 years, taking more leadership when it comes to how geospatial technology has to evolve within the Kingdom. When we forecasted what kind of impact it is going to have in the market, we saw that the impact of the evolution of the role of GeoSA is going to be significant if it continues to be at the pace that it is. Most of us must be aware that GeoSA has played a leading role in having a geospatial policy within the kingdom, establishing guidelines, establishing standards along with OGC, learning from the best of geospatial authorities all over the world, participating in UN GGIM conferences, showcasing the leadership of GeoSA within the region as well as globally, and also augmenting the industry within the kingdom itself. There's more innovation happening. There are more companies who are coming in within the kingdom who are moving from service providers to application developers or solution providers. And what ideally, when we look at the key market drivers, we have the Vision 2030, of course. We have infrastructure development, expansion of ride-hailing and delivery services, and tourism, which are driving the market. But what is important is the socio-economic impact that GeoSA has been able to create in the different sectors of the economy. This is an old study. We did this in 2022, 2023. And if you look at the economic impact and the value impact that geospatial information has created within the kingdom, of course, with a direct role of the National Geospatial Authority, it is significant. It goes from a generally impacts range is between a range. So if you just look at surveying and mapping, value impact is 9.5 SAR billion to 11 billion approximately. That is the kind of value impact that is directly in the sector. There are two types of impact, of course, direct and indirect. These are the direct impacts that is created by geospatial information. Then coming to socio-economic impact. Now, when we look at socio-economic impact, impacts are to consumers, to businesses, and of course, there's a societal impact. When we looked at the consumer impact, the total number of miles that were reduced by using the base map provided by GeoSA in the different applications was 3.1 billion miles. If we look at the revenue generated, it was 13.7 billion. The impact on productivity gains ranges from 32 billion to 55 billion. And when we look at the societal impact, more than 67,000 jobs have been created within the kingdom just as Geospatial Authority has taken leadership. So what that ideally means is that in 2022, the total economic impact, the direct economic impact of geospatial technologies within the kingdom, enabled by the leadership of GeoSA, is 83 SAR billion, which is significant over what it was last year. And I'm sure it has grown over the last 2 years, given GeoSA's leadership. What that has also done is we do a study where we assess countries on their geospatial knowledge infrastructure readiness index. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia ranked 32 in 2022. And given the policy focus, policy impetus, the industry development, the investments that are flowing in within the kingdom, within both geospatial and space sector, and also alignment with national programs and national priorities, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 2025 GKI Readiness Index ranked at 9. The ranking just rose because the national geospatial ecosystem, the 5 pillars that we had, we were able to address the enabling role of the National Geospatial Agency of the country, helped evolve an ecosystem where the country became geospatial knowledge infrastructure ready. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. I've already briefed what geospatial world business is. So thank you so much for listening. We are here to take more questions.
Thank you, Ananya. It's very interesting stuff. I mean, that's a great example of where a geospatial authority is evolving and moving into a new realm and modernizing to meet the modern requirements of a rapidly developing nation like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So with that, our presentation concludes, but we're here for questions if anyone has anything they'd like to ask. If not, then we are around for a little bit longer, so feel free to come and say hi. And thank you again for participating today. Please don't forget to fill in the survey on the application. Let us know how we did and what you'd like to see next time. And thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes, it's okay? Okay. I think that the earplugs might be a good idea, just in case. So welcome to this final session. of the user conference. It's our pleasure to be here. Thank you for staying until the very end. And so my colleague Dana and I will talk about the educational offering globally, but also regionally, locally. And as you can see from the title here, we're talking not about general GIS education, but we're talking about the increasing need for also some specialized GIS education. And I'll talk a little bit about the distinction between sort of general education and the more specific. Please make a note of my email address if you'd like to contact me afterwards. I say that because I may have to escape just a few minutes before the session is finished. And so I may not be here at the end for you to chat with me. Please do contact me and also my colleague Dana if you'd like to have more information. Very happy to continue the conversation with you. Quickly, we'll change the order a bit. I'll start with the GIS industries and education, number 2. And then later on, Dana will talk about some specific offerings and examples here in Saudi Arabia. A bit about myself. I'm a GIS professor. I've been teaching GIS for 25 years in Spain, and I joined Esri in 2009. And my position at Esri allows me to be on this equator between, as Jack mentioned, 700,000 users on the industry side, but also 12,000 universities on the educational side. So myself and my team, we're sort of on this equator, and we're doing our best to try to bring industry messages into education and also educational messages back into industry, to connect these two. So I don't know if you all have had a chance to attend some of these other industry sessions. Hopefully you have. I just attended an interesting session on AEC, Architecture, Engineering, and Construction. That's a very important growth area for us. And part of my message here is that we would like to identify key universities which would like to teach specific AEC-oriented GIS content. Not only general GIS content, but specific content which will allow graduates to go and work for AEC companies. Because as we all know, all of our countries now have huge infrastructure projects. And these infrastructure projects require specialists, not only generalists, regarding GIS. One of the ways that we try to introduce our various industries to educators is we encourage you all to visit the Esri/Industries webpage. So if I visit the Esri Industries webpage, I will see here more than 40 different categories of industries, many of which are represented here at the conference. And so if I would like to know what is the AEC, Architecture, Engineering, and Construction industry doing with GIS, I can visit this part of the website. And here I'll get examples and case studies, and I'll get a much clearer idea, hopefully, regarding what this industry is doing. Or the business industry. So what are they doing in real estate or banking? Or defense and intelligence, or natural resources, and the list goes on and on. So this is a really interesting sort of map of our GIS users. Now, what I would like to do is to do a better job at communicating with universities that we need to be teaching people to work in all of these industries, not only becoming general GIS analysts. So who is going to be teaching people in business schools to be able to utilize GIS at a bank? Who's going to be teaching engineers and planners to be utilizing GIS in the AEC field, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when I studied GIS many years ago, there was only one flavor or one type of GIS, general GIS. And then everyone had to sort of figure out how to become a specialist later. Now we want to do a better job at working with specific departments and universities to create sort of alliances between Esri and departments to start creating AEC programs or banking programs or natural resource programs or public health programs. And we're making some slow progress to be able to do that. So again, if I click on AEC, I come to the AEC section, and it gives me an interesting sort of picture of what AEC looks like regarding GIS. We've got project delivery, we've got digital twins, we've got reality mapping, which is necessary to create digital twins, and we've got the nexus or the connection between GIS and BIM. And each one of these is its own website talking about how we do it and what are the products involved. and how our partners are helping us. If we start pushing GIS out to many other different departments, we start seeing that the number of GIS users at universities goes from hundreds to thousands. This is one of our top universities in Michigan. And they've got, this was from last week. This is an ArcGIS dashboard which they created, and it's publicly available. So if you search for the University of Michigan ArcGIS dashboard, you'll find this live dashboard. And it says that as of last week, they had more than 10,000 active users of ArcGIS. When I talk to other universities, they say, we have ArcGIS in this laboratory or in that laboratory. And that's not enough for us. We want to have ArcGIS in the hands of all the students and all the faculty members and the library and the engineers who are running the campus. So that is happening at this particular university. And so if I look at the dashboard, I can see that there's a giant collection of degrees. So undergraduate degrees and master's degrees. And I can click on this graphic and it will show me which are the degrees using the software. And up here, even more importantly, the units. So this will tell me the departments, but also which parts of the university are using the software for planning purposes, security purposes, transportation, for managing the gardens, for managing the sports stadiums. And I've just clicked on one here, and it shows me that amongst all these different units, the School of Music and Theater has 46 users of ArcGIS. Right? This is what happens when the university moves from having isolated licenses locked inside of laboratories, and they open the licenses to everyone on campus. People from music start to experiment with GIS. People from natural sciences, people from engineering, people from the medical school, people from the business school. This is from 2009 when I first joined Esri. This is another university in Ohio where a dance instructor digitized, with cameras on the ceiling, digitized the dancers and turned the dancers into point clouds and did spatial analysis of the dance. So this was an article that we published in Arc News way back in 2009. So universities have been doing these crazy things for a while, but now we're starting to see it grow across more countries and more different departments and faculties. This is thanks to this new concept of the institutional agreement, having the licenses available to everybody, not only laboratories. So that's been fun to see it move into lots of different disciplines. Now, people are utilizing GIS for very simple things like telling stories. Now, when story maps first came out, I recall that the GIS specialist said, oh, that's not GIS, that's just multimedia. Well, guess what? Now everyone's using story maps to tell their story. Because story maps bring your data and your analysis to the popular press and to your boss and to the mayor of your city, right? You can't convince these people that you need to do something, build something, preserve something with data. You need to tell them the full story with multimedia. And so Story Maps is helping us to do that. So this is a very simple workflow that everyone across the university campus can utilize. And we can go all the way to what we might say is the expert level, which is GeoAI. So as you know, and as you've probably seen here, we have many different GeoAI solutions, including the ability to utilize pre-trained models to do things like feature extraction. I want to extract the palm trees or the buildings or the vehicles or whatever. So there's lots of this going on, and this is maybe at the higher end of what our students are doing. Our students want to be programmers, so we have a whole series of resources to help them to become Python programmers, to automate their processes, but also to create cool web apps utilizing JavaScript. And increasingly, we want to convince our students that their geographic information is not a shapefile sitting on their local machine. It is now becoming a feature service which is accessible by web applications. So they build something and they create a nice map, but they don't sit on it. They publish it and they share it. And they know where it's been shared so they can utilize it later on in their web applications, on their mobile devices. And this is a workflow that's become very, very popular. We have several different portals or websites which are supporting the educational community. This is the portal which was set up by our marketing manager in this region, by Nadine Sharif. And so we have a whole series of stories here regarding interesting things that are happening in the region, not only at universities, but also at schools. We have students as young as 5, 6 years old who are doing interesting things with ArcGIS. We have a specific schools program which provides the software free of charge to every school around the world. So if you're interested in that, getting your own kids or your own favorite students connected, please contact your local Esri office. Our team has been thinking very carefully about sort of this entire educational journey. So it used to be that we focused on undergraduate students, and everything was focused on the teachers of undergraduate students. But now we're starting to have a much wider picture of education. And we're saying, actually, this is not where we should be starting, because at this point, people already know what GIS is, and that's why they're sitting in the classroom. We need to start with the whole world, with K-12 education, with these kids who are 10 years old, who don't know what GIS is, but they might like to use story maps or some other simple online software to have a look at their world or their neighborhood or their vacation and that sort of thing. So we open what we call the funnel. We open the funnel wider to capture every young person, in theory. And then when they become undergraduates, many, many more of them know what mapping is, and they know what thinking spatially is, and they know what GIS is. And then we move on to the postgraduate and then into industry. But you see here we have different, what we call exit points, because it's not necessarily the case that everyone gets a master's degree and then goes to work for the industry. Industry people are telling us that actually they don't need everyone to have a master's degree or a PhD. They're saying, we're happy to have these young kids who are 17 years old who know a little bit about GIS, because for certain parts of our industry, we're happy to have them now. So in many countries, they're starting to hire young people who have only gone to a basic technical school, and they've learned the basics of GIS, and they're already working. Exit point 1. Then there's the traditional exit point 2, where they've done an undergraduate degree, and then they move on into industry. And then, of course, there's the third part, where they decide to go on and get a master's degree or become a PhD, and then either industry or academia. So we've got specific programs and resources for each of these exit points. This is the product in the way that we're now addressing exit point 1. The younger students and people who just want to get a little bit of a taste of GIS. We are building global and national atlases, and we're exposing these national atlases with a product which was created jointly with National Geographic Society, which is called MapMaker. So if you search on the web for MapMaker, you will find this application. It's easier than the web browser. It's easier than the map viewer within ArcGIS Online. It has a very simple interface. It only does a few things, and it's based on content that we've provided to the students. MapMaker is natively 2D and also 3D. So we can go anywhere on Earth and we can look at 3D. And we can look at the topography, and we can look at the monuments, and we can really get into some interesting parts of the world. We can look at the volcanoes, etc. We provide a set of layers which then are tied to curricula. So we speak with the curriculum designers of country X, and they tell us, we want our students to look at the Hubara migration patterns in the desert of a particular species. We put together learning materials for that. Or they say, we want our students to know about mangroves. We put together a specific learning material on that. We want our students to know about migration or about climate, etc. And so we populate the MapMaker with specific data sources. You can also add your own data sources, but we populate it with the specific data sources that are necessary for the curriculum needs of the schools. Here are two of the many themes that we have on board. Most of our themes are global. They're not local. In order to make them local, you need to find the content, and you need to work with your curriculum designers to make them local. But this is one of local interest, perhaps. So here's a lesson on cultural diffusion. And so we're looking at diffusion, and we're looking at movement, in this case of the expansion of Islam through the years. So it's historical, but it's also geographical. There's a whole series of maps and animations talking about the diffusion of Islam through the world. There's another one here on the various Silk Roads and how trade has moved from place to place over the years. So these are two examples of lessons that are already up there, readily available, to give you some ideas. You can create your own version of this. So MapMaker is a product which we created with National Geographic Society, and we have their branding, but you can create your own because there's an application called Instant Atlas, which is part of the ArcGIS platform. So you can go into Instant Atlas and you can create your own. You don't need to have National Geographic's approval. We are working with certain countries and with National Geographic to create official versions of MapMaker, but you don't need to go that route necessarily. You can create your own atlas utilizing that freely available software. The key is the content. We can't provide you with local content for your particular schools in your country. You need to work with your local curriculum developers, and you all know what data is available, what's not available, what you need to collect yourself in the field, etc. But this is a really, really interesting way now for us to expose not GIS per se, but digital atlases to every single young person in your country, because this is freely available on the web. No users, no cost. Anyone can go on to MapMaker and just start utilizing it. If you need local, as I've said many times, if you need local data, that's your business. Getting back to the bigger picture, there's an organization called the World Geographical Industry Council, WGIC. Esri is a member of this council. It's a council of industry players, companies, and we're very concerned about the fact that universities are producing a very small amount of growth with regard to the availability of GIS programs, whereas the demand is growing 5 times faster. And so what are we going to do about this sort of empty spot here, which is growing? We need to have more people in more universities teaching GIS in more disciplines. And we're working with non-university education as well. But this is a large challenge for us. This means that not only geography departments, but other departments across universities need to start teaching GIS because we need the specialists in lots of different fields. So going back to our funnel where we have lots of young people coming in, doing simple things with MapMaker or the map browser, and then moving into kind of an intermediate level where they start doing things with Survey 123 and story maps and dashboards, and of course, ArcGIS Pro. And then they eventually get into more of an expert region. And this is not divided as was the case previously with sort of whether it's undergraduate or graduate or whatever. This can happen at any time. This is lifelong learning. So it could be that at age 50, someone decides to start here and get up to speed and then become more and more expert at some of this technology. We're seeing more or less a relationship between the more sophisticated technologies and employability, okay? Industry would prefer to have people that have specific knowledge on particular technologies. There's still lots of opportunity here in the intermediate level. So it may be a bit confusing, take a picture, but this tries to help us to orient our activities with our partners, with universities, with other types of educational organizations. This is where we'd like to be. In many cases, if I visit a university, I see a poster on the wall with a 2D map, which is fine, but it's not enough. We need to move from traditional GIS products to this sort of world, where we have our entire city or our area of interest in 3 dimensions, connected to real-time sensors, so we know what's going on with each building, we know what's going on with our traffic, we know what's going on with our weather, and we're creating a digital twin of our forest, of our desert, of our city, of our neighborhood, of our building. So that's where we'd like to go, and it's not for everybody, but especially for the planners, for the architects, for people who want to help in the AEC field, we want to move in that direction. So we want to be teaching people how to be design and construction experts in this particular case. And I'm focusing on AEC just to give you an example. We're going to start diving in a little bit deeper to AEC in these next years. But then we'll also do the same with business schools and with public health schools and with other different specialties. This is one particular specialty which is of especially high demand in most of our countries. So we'll be working with our partners, we'll be working with Autodesk, with Trimble, with others to put together learning materials that show people how to go from the field to the laboratory, to create the models, to be able to go into the built environment, to connect real-time sensors and create our digital twins. This is one of the many directions that we'd like to go in as specialists. In terms of digital twins, most of the digital twins are descriptive, so we have a nice model of our world. We've done some reality mapping, which means we've flown our drones, we have a three-dimensional model, we've added some detail, we've maybe turned it into a realistic 3D flyover or something like that with the gaming engines. It's not really digital twin unless it has connection with the real-time sensors. So the difference between the model and the digital twin is that I can see and I can manipulate my world and I can see things happening in real time. It's not only sort of a static model. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where our digital twins start thinking for themselves and start making some decisions, and we're hopefully be in control of that, right? We're not there yet, but that's the direction that we're moving in. And again, we need people to be learning about these basic technologies at universities to be able to graduate and help our partners to do that. So this is just one of many different areas in which we're pushing. And I think you all are familiar with the fact that 10 years ago, we had one product which is called ArcGIS. Now there are more than 100 products, and it can be confusing. It depends on whether we're talking about the mobile products, the cloud products for specific industries, programming, more than 100 products. So how do we decide what it is we'd like to know about and teach and learn? We have a whole series of resources to help you to move ahead. Hopefully you all know about the Learn lessons. So the Learn tutorials, better called, are more than 200 small modules, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, explaining how to do specific functional things with our software. And I can filter through here for products and say, I'm looking for tutorials on ArcGIS Online, or I'm looking for tutorials on the mobile applications, or I'm looking for imagery-related tutorials. So there's a whole series of tutorials there in many different languages, not Arabic, but many other languages, which people find very useful. In fact, educators, we find it very useful to include those in our teaching. So I tell my students, I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you how to push the buttons on ArcGIS. I want you to go to these Learn lessons, and I want you to take this one, that one, and the other one. Do that at home with your licenses, which you all have available through the institutional agreement. And then after you've done the basic training yourself on your own computer, now we're going to move ahead into more advanced topics. The Esri Academy is a more fuller featured, we might say, educational experience, longer courses which provide a PDF or some other kind of certification at the end. Lots of different categories, lots of different courses. These tend to be multiple hours or days, so you get into more detail. As an educator, I can assign these courses to my students, and I can create a learning path, and I can monitor the learning path. I can see how many of the students opened and started it, how many students finished the first one, how many students are stuck in the middle of the second one. So I can monitor their progress, which is nice. As I mentioned, many of our students want to be developers. We have many different resources to get people started, including credits, so they can go on ArcGIS Online and they can start building and publishing applications. So lots of different resources for the developers. Esri Press, I think you're familiar with the books, so there are more than 100 different titles. Some of them are more specific to the software, some of them are more thematic in nature. Here's one on three-dimensional mapping, mobile GIS, and there's a series of top 20, and this is the particular top 20 essential skills for imagery and remote sensing. So these books are available also, and in some cases are utilized in the classroom. That's been a quick tour of what we're thinking these days. Quick takeaways on my side, and I'll turn it over to my colleague. hopefully it's clear that we're looking at lifelong learning. We're not only talking about students as undergraduates. We're talking about anyone who wants to start, become more proficient, and then expert. We're looking not only at sort of the horizontal view of GIS, where everyone learns the same basic 100 skills, but we're also looking at vertical specialties. So everyone learns the basics, but then some people become specialists in natural resource GIS. Some become specialists in AEC GIS. Some become specialists in banking GIS. And I've used AEC as just one example. There's a growing community of ArcGIS users here in country and region around the world, so please continue to be part of that community. Lots of activities, lots of sharing of information. We're very happy to collaborate with you moving forward in these new directions. So please do contact us through email or otherwise. And that's been very quick. If you have questions, I can take a few of those, and then we're going to move forward. Any quick questions? Don't be shy. Yes? What does? Digital twin. Well, I explained a little bit about the digital twins. The digital twin is a digital representation of some physical object, which could be a building, it could be a neighborhood, it could be a forest, it could be lots of different things. We tried to represent this object or this area, this world, in terms of realistic three-dimensional modeling, in which it looks very realistic, both outside and inside. So we go inside the buildings, or we go inside the forest, or we go inside a mining activity. But also, critically, it also has access to real-time data inputs. So we're not just looking at the building, we know its energy consumption. We know if the lights are on. We know the occupation. We know what's going on with our building, right? We know what's going on with our traffic. We know what's going on with weather patterns. And so that's key, that we have the realistic model three-dimensionally, but we also have connection with the real-time data. So that's the notion of digital twins. It came from the aerospace industry, where they're representing airplane engines. And so in order to be able to predict when and how airplane engines might fail, they create realistic models with all the different parameters, and they start doing modeling, and they try to figure out that this particular airline needs to come in for maintenance because the model of its engines are telling it something, right? That's where it comes from. And now we're applying it to everything. So those are the digital twins. Good question. Anything else? Okay. Yes.
Thank you. So regarding the educational licensing, I saw that there is open courses and so on, but can we contact you regarding like a specific course that, whether it is going to be online or physically, like in our university, that we maybe work together to have one of your expertise in Esri to have like a workshop or a specific course for our program?
Okay, good question. So can we collaborate on the creation of curriculum materials? The answer is yes, with an asterisk, right? It's very laborious to create curriculum materials. So I can't promise that we can spend lots and lots of days or weeks or months creating all the details. But certainly all the time we have consultations and we get the process moving, of course. Very happy to do that. And in cases where we need to find specialists, because I can't be a specialist on all of your different topics. If we need a specialist on geological modeling, I find one. Or if we need a specialist on natural resource planning, I find one. So the answer is yes, we can do that with limitations. Okay, well, again, thank you very much for your attention. It's been a pleasure being here. It won't be my last visit. I would like to turn the microphone over quickly to our colleague here, who's going to tell us a little bit about an interesting collaboration between the Istanbul Atlas University and the University of Redlands, which is right next door to Esri in Redlands, California. And she'll tell us a little bit about what they've been doing, and then we'll turn it over to Dana.
Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me in this beautiful city, Riyadh. And I'm coming from another beautiful city, which is Istanbul. And I lived in the United States for 11 years as a Fulbright scholar, and then I kept on working there. Just a brief background of me. I have been an educator for 27 years. I started my journey as a K through 12 teacher, and then became an administrator, got the Fulbright scholarship, went to US and lived there and worked there for 11 years. And I was also in the Obama administration in charge of education initiatives. Today, when Michael was talking about this journey starts from all the way from K through 12. What is it, K through 12? What does K through 12 mean? Kindergarten to 12th grade. And then undergraduate program. And then what? Graduate program, which means that it becomes a K through 20 journey. We're talking about 21 years of journey and learning and acquiring all those skills. He also mentioned another data, said that there is a huge demand in the sector, but unfortunately there are not enough sufficient number of professionals. In order to support those professionals, we need universities and private sector to support them. And today, very briefly, I'm going to talk about an opportunity that brings the best of all the worlds, like shooting 3 birds with 1 stone. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Well, as Michael mentioned, University of Redlands is in California, which is next door to Esri, and they have been collaborating for so many years. They are already partners. Now we are the Istanbul Atlas University. We are the third leg of this beautiful triangle. What happens is we collaborated with University of Redlands to create a dual diploma program. It's a degree. It's a master's degree. And it is for 2 years. It has 2 options. One, face-to-face program. The second one, online program. Both of them is for 2 years. In the first option, if you choose the face-to-face option, the first year you're going to spend in beautiful Istanbul at Atlas University with us. And when the second year comes, you're going to go to California, to Redlands University. And after the university, it sometimes even gives opportunity to stay there and work there for some time. And again, it's just that I am also working as a lecturer at a university. I have been in K through 12, 20 education for so many years. And I have students at the university, but sometimes I'm always questioning myself. Are we preparing the professionals for the sector enough? But since you have Esri in the picture, you don't have to think about it. And what happens is you can also have the online version of this program. As we know, we're all adults. We cannot stop the life for 2 years. We have to work. We have to earn our living, which means that you can choose the online program. And there is another advantage in this program doing it with us, because if you directly take this opportunity from Redlands for 2 years, it is $52,000. But when you do it with us, this $52,000 goes to $35,000, which is a huge difference. And if you turn to me and say, Ms. Bulldog, I don't want to spend 2 years. I need to get into the sector way quickly. 2 years is too long for me. Okay, we have the second option then. The second option is a certificate program. It has an online version and face-to-face option again. If you want the face-to-face option for 28 weeks, you go to University of Redlands directly. If you don't want that, again, you have the online version, and all the classes are synchronized, and this is a more reasonably priced version of it. Long story short, I don't want to take their time. I really appreciate you being accommodating. We really appreciate that. If you're interested in either of them, please, at the end of the session, you see the QR code here. It will take you to a very simple form. It's not like 3 pages longer. Only 3-4 questions, your name, your email address. We can keep in touch. And you can see the brochures here, these 2 versions of the brochures, and my business card next to the waters. Thank you so much for listening to me. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. My name is Dana Ruwaili. I'm a sales account manager at Esri, Saudi Arabia. Today, I will be showing how we can advancing GIS education and strengthening university partnership across the kingdom. At Esri, we often speak about preparing a future generation to be global stewards. Education plays a key role in this mission. Over the next 20 minutes or less, I will be highlight how we support educations and decisions from schools and from school to university using ArcGIS tools and lab and our agreement to help young people to expand the GIS. Let's start with why GIS and education is matters. To understand location and data, you have need to know essential skills. GIS helps a student to, GIS makes learning more interactive and more easier to understand. We help a student to see how everything is linked. In Saudi Arabia, technology and innovation are central to Vision 2030. By introducing GIS into education, we are preparing students with the practical skills and a future-focused mindset. Simply put, GIS education turns today's learners into tomorrow's leaders who can pickle challenges from urban planning to environmental conservation. This slide shows the main education licensing options we offer. We support universities and institutions through academic departmental agreement, institutional agreement, and administrative use licenses. This flexibility help each institution to choose the best fit model for and secured. For institutions with a site license, a student received a full access to ArcGIS tools to learn and their projects. This means students can create professional maps and apps and analysis using the same technology used on the real life, and helping them graduate with the practical job-ready skills. In Saudi Arabia, GIS is driving real-world innovation and helping shape how we educate our future workforce. For example, CAPSARC, a research center in Riyadh, using the GIS to find the best location for the upgrade vehicle charging stations. Means these chargers work on their own renewable power, like panels or state of the grid. So I think this one, sorry. Another example, KAUST. They are training young scientists in satellite and GIS technology through its hybrid spectral Earth observation. Satellite images, students have hands-on experience gathering and analyzing data from satellite, learning how to map and monitor the environment from space. Both stories shows that GIS is not just about the map. As Mr. Jack mentioned yesterday, It's powering innovation and helping prepare the next generation. By applying GIS challenges and training students on these skills, we turn education into the real world impact and build the workforce of the future. Let's talk about the university and GIS education and partnerships. We have established a strong partnership with leading universities. Some examples of them including King Saud University, King Abdulaziz University, and Prince Sultan University. Through formal agreements, we support GIS integration into academic program and research. This includes providing software access to and the training and technical support to build a student and facilities. Our goal is to ensure graduates leave universities with a practical GIS experience that supports their careers. At King Saud University, our partnership focuses on strengthening GIS education and research. Students and facilities has access to ArcGIS tools, unlimited, that support learning and geographic, urban planning, also environmental studies, and more. This hands-on experience helps a student to build the skills that are directly relevant to today's job market. At Prince Sultan University, GIS usage across multiple disciplines. Students apply GIS in areas such as engineering, urban planning, and environmental management. This allows them to work on real-life scenarios using professional tools, enhancing their learning experience. Our collaboration with King Abdulaziz University focuses on education, training, and student engagement. A great example, what have been did in the GIS Day, where students and facilities explore GIS, AI applications, drone technologies, and student projects. These activities help a student and to understand how GIS is used in the real-world application and emerging the technologies. This slide shows where we are today. Out of around 42 universities, we are currently working with 16, which represent about 38% coverage. This gave us a strong foundation and at the same time highlights a clear opportunity to expand GIS education partnerships and usage across the kingdom. So, what are we aiming to achieve moving forward? First, we want to expand the GIS education in schools so students start learning spatial thinking earlier. Second, we aim to integrate GIS into educational training to support job skills. And we focus on inclusivity by encouraging more women to participate in GIS educations. Finally, we work to simplify access to GIS through flexible education licensing. Overall, our goal is to support educators and the students with the right tools, training, and guidance. Let's talk about ArcGIS for schools, which is designed for primary and secondary education. It allows the schools use GIS tools easily and in many cases at no cost. Teachers can bring the real-world data into classrooms, and the student can explore topics like environment, cities, and history through maps. This makes learning more engaging and practical, like what King Abdulaziz did. GIS also can be in vocational training programs. Through our collaboration with technical and TVTC, GIS is integrated into technical programs such as constructions, agriculture, and surveying. This ensures a student and to graduate with the skills match their new careers. Encouraging women in GIS is another key priority for us. Like at Prince Noura University, we support GIS awareness on labs and events like GIS Day. Famous students are introduced to GIS tools, career opportunities, and real examples of how GIS is used. These initiatives help build confidence and open new careers paths for women in the geospatial field, of course. We understand that access to technology can be a challenge. That's why Esri offers a special education licensing for schools and universities. These licenses provide broad access to GIS softwares along with the training and technical support. This allows educators to focus on teaching and a student to practice anytime without worrying about software limitation. To conclude, Esri Saudi Arabia is committed to support any education, any entity in GIS through partnership, training, and accessible technologies. By working together, we can generate a student with skills that they need to understand their world and contribute their sustainability to society. Finally, whether you are already using GIS or just starting using it, we are here to support you. Thank you for your time and for being a part of this journey and our achievement. Thank you all.